Hey guys, tonight we are going to drift into a world of silk, powdered white faces, and impossible grace, or stepping into the floating world of the Japanese geisha. It's a world so beautiful it hurts, and as you'll soon find out, that's not just a figure of speech. If you were actually there, well, let's just say surviving the training might be a bigger challenge than you'd think. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. I'd love to know where you're listening from and what time it is in your corner of the world. Drop a comment below and let me know. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The world you know is small, and it smells of damp earth and wood smoke. Your days are measured by the slow crawl of the sun across a rice paddy, and your hands are rough from chores that are as predictable as the seasons. Life isn't easy, but it's simple, it's real. Then, one day, a woman arrives. She is not from your world. She glides, rather than walks, down the muddy path to your family's small house. She smells of blossoms and something clean, a scent you can't name. Her kimono is a quiet river of gray silk, and her movements are so deliberate, so contained. They seem to carve a space of perfect stillness around her. She speaks to your parents in low tones, her voice a soft melody that contrasts sharply with the worried, hushed whispers of your mother. You don't understand all the words, but you understand the transaction. You are the price, a bag of coins, the promise of a bitter life, a release from the burden of another mouth to feed. You are told to pack nothing. The life you have is being shed right here, right now. Like a worn-out coat, the journey is a blur of jolting cart, wheels and unfamiliar landscapes. The world rushes past in greens and browns, until finally, it transforms. The roads become paved with stone. The houses grow taller, their wooden lattices intricate and precise. Then the air changes. It's thick with incense, with the faint, sweet smell of cooking. And underneath it all, the sound of music. They plucked string here, a flute's lonely call there. You have arrived. This place, they tell you, is the Kaiar-yokai, the flower and willow world. It's a district that operates on its own time, under its own rules. As you walk, your bare feet timid on the cool stone, you look up. Paper lanterns glow with a soft, warm light, casting long shadows that dance and flicker. You see silhouettes moving behind paper screens. Graceful, feminine shapes. You hear muffled laughter, the sharp, distinct clack-clack of wooden sandals on the pavement. It's beautiful. It's like stepping into a painting, but it's a painting you can't quite read. The beauty is so overwhelming that it feels protective, like a beautiful firewall designed to keep the rest of the world out and to keep those inside perfectly arranged. This is the designated district where the art of the geisha lives and breathes. It's a world unto itself, a small city within a city, with its own economy, its own hierarchy, and its own government. You pass a building that looks different from the others. It's more severe, more official. A woman walking beside you, one of the housemaids, points and whispers that it's the kanban, the official registry office. It's here that every geisha's schedule, earnings, and training are meticulously recorded. It's a surprisingly bureaucratic anchor in this so-called floating world. A reminder that beneath the art and poetry, this is a business, a very serious one. You are a commodity here, a tiny, unpolished stone that might, with enough pressure and time, become a jewel. But, as you look at the faces of the other young girls you pass, girls who are already part of this world, you don't see joy. You see a quiet, focused emptiness. Their expressions are smooth, unreadable. They move with a purpose that seems far too old for their years. The very concept of the geisha as a pure artist, distinct from other forms of entertainment, is something that historians still debate. The lines in the early days of these districts were often blurry, a fluid spectrum of roles that only sharpened over many decades. It wasn't a sudden invention, but a slow, deliberate carving of a niche, a declaration that art, music, dance, conversation was the product being sold, not the artist herself. A subtle but fiercely protected distinction. You feel a knot of cold fear in your stomach. This world is not the warm, simple life you understood. It is a complex machine of beauty and obligation. You are led down a narrow alley, stopping before a tall, dark wooded house. The sliding door is opened by a girl who looks to be your age, but her eyes are ancient. She bows low, not looking at you, and gestures for you to enter. You take a deep breath, the air tasting of old wood, tatami mats, and flowers. You step over the threshold, and the door slides shut behind you, sealing you in. Your old world is gone. Your new one has just begun. The air inside is thick and still, trapping the scent of old wood, tatami mats, and the faint, almost ghostly fragrance of last night's incense. It's a quiet house, but the silence feels heavy. It's not empty. You can feel the presence of others. A low hum of activity behind paper screens and down long, dark hallways. The young girl who let you in gestures for you to take off your worn-outs sandals and step up onto the polished wooden floor. The wood is cold against the soles of your feet, a chilling welcome that seems to seep right into your bones. You are led down a corridor, your footsteps a timid shuffle against the floorboards. The girl leading you walks with a practiced efficiency, her feet making almost no sound at all. She stops before a set of sliding screens, kneels gracefully, and announces your arrival in a soft, formal tone. A voice from within, low and clear, gives a simple command to enter. The screens part, and you are ushered into a room. The room is starkly beautiful. A single scroll painting hangs in the alcove, depicting a lonely branch of bamboo. A simple flower arrangement, it's beneath it, its perfection almost intimidating. And kneeling in the center of the room is the source of the voice. She is an older woman, perhaps in her 50s, her face a carefully composed mask. Unlike the painted faces you glimpsed outside, hers is bare, but it reveals nothing. Her hair is pulled back in a severe, simple bun, and her kimono is the color of deep shadow. This is the Okazan, the mother of this house, though you feel no maternal warmth radiating from her. Her eyes, sharp and intelligent, scan you from head to toe. It's not a curious gaze, it's an appraisal. She is assessing an investment. Your father is there, kneeling awkwardly to the side. He avoids your gaze, his face strained. Between him and the Okazan, laid out on the tatami mat, is a long scroll of paper, covered in elegant, inky black characters. Beside it sits the same small, heavy bag of coins you saw earlier. The Okazan says something to your father, her voice polite but firm. He nods, his shoulders slumped in defeat. He picks up a brush, dips it in ink, and with a hesitant hand, adds his mark to the bottom of the scroll. The deal is done. That piece of paper is your entire future. You can trade the words, but you will come to understand its meaning in every fiber of your being. This is your contract. It binds you to this house, the Okia. It's a document of debt. The Okazan has just purchased your life, but it's framed as an act of generosity. She has paid your family, and now she will pay for your food, your logic, your lessons, and the fantastically expensive kimonos you will one day wear. Every single yen spent on you is being meticulously recorded in a ledger. Your life is now a running tab, and your purpose is to pay it back. The contract might state a term, perhaps 10 years of service, but that's the pretty little lie. The debt is the real chain. If you get sick and require a doctor, the cost is added to your debt. If you accidentally tear a silk kimono, the astronomical cost of repair or replacement is added to your debt. The system is designed to be almost inescapable, ensuring you remain a profitable asset for the house for as long as possible. This financial bondage is a core, and often overlooked, part of the geisha's gilded cage. It was a cold, hard business model dressed up in silken poetry. You look at your father, a flicker of hope in your chest that he will look at you, that he will offer some word of comfort. But he just stands, bows stiffly to the Okazan, and turns to leave. He doesn't look back. And in that moment, you understand a heartbreaking truth. To your family, this was not an act of abandonment, but one of desperate survival. Back in your village, another harsh winter or a failed crop could mean starvation. Here, in this house, you will be fed. You will have a roof over your head. You will be taught a trade. In their world of impossible choices, they chose a life for you, even if it is a life of servitude. They sold you into a cage to save you from the wilderness. Historians still debate the precise nature of these arrangements. To call it slavery is to ignore the specific cultural and economic context, as there was, in theory, a path to freedom through paying off one's debt, however unlikely. To call it simple apprenticeship is to ignore the coercive, all-encompassing control the Okiya had over a girl's life. It existed in a gray area, a form of indentured servitude, so deeply woven into the fabric of society that it was seen as a legitimate, if difficult, task for a young woman from a poor background. The morality of it is something we can judge from our comfortable distance, but for the people living it, it was just the way things were. The screen slide shut behind your father, and the sound echoes the finality of the door that closed on your old world just a short time ago. The Oka-Asen's gaze settles on you again. The business transaction is complete. Now, the work begins. She speaks, her voice no longer polite, but crisp and commanding. She doesn't tell you your new name yet. She doesn't tell you about the art you will learn. She points to a bucket and a rag in the corner of the long hallway. Your first lesson is not in music or dance. It is in scrubbing the floor. You are to start at one end of the hall and not stop until you reach the other. Then you are to do it on your hands and knees. You are no longer a person. You are a project, and your training has just begun. The house, the Okiya, is your new universe. And like any universe, it has its own unforgiving laws of physics and its own rigid, celestial hierarchy. You learn this hierarchy not through words, but through observation, through the silent language of bows, averted eyes, and the order in which meals are served. The Oka, as in is the sun, the immovable center around which everything orbits. Her moods dictate the climate of the entire house. The rare, quiet smile can feel like a warm spring day. A sharp word can plunge the atmosphere into a freezing, anxious winter. Then there are the planets, the senior geisha, or geiko, as they are called in this region. They are magnificent, terrifying beings. They sweep through the hallways in a rustle of silk, their faces perfect white masks, their conversation a low, sophisticated murmur. They are the financial lifeblood of the Okiya. Their earnings from entertaining at tea houses and parties are what keeps the entire enterprise afloat. You are not allowed to speak to them unless spoken to, and you must bow so low your forehead nearly touches the floor when they pass. They are your future, the idealized image of what you are supposed to become. Orbiting them are the moons, the younger, apprentice geisha, known as maiko. They are closer to your age, but they might as well be from another species. They are vibrant, their kimonos splashed with bright colors in long, flowing sleeves. Their faces are painted. Their hair is a sculpted work of art, and they chatter and laugh with a lightness that seems impossible in this heavy, silent house. They are the promise, the work in progress. They are also your immediate superiors. They can order you around, critique your work, and report your failings to the Oka-Azan. And then there is you. You are cosmic dust. You are at the absolute bottom of this food chain, a shikomi, which translates roughly to entraining or maid. You are not yet even an apprentice. You are a servant. You and a few other girls, all with the same wide, frightened eyes, are the house's invisible machinery. You wake before the sun. Your first task is to slide open the heavy wooden shutters of the house, letting in the cold, gray morning light. You scrub floors. You polish wood. You clean the bathrooms. You run errands in the cold. And you assist the maids who help dress the geiko and maiko. The Okiya itself is a labyrinth of polished wooden paper screens. It's a world built for women, by women. There are almost no men here, save for the occasional delivery boy or the mail dressers. The Otoko-san, who were specialists called in to help tie the impossibly complex obi sashes. But their presence is fleeting, unprofessional. The tower, the politics, the rivalries. It's all female. This is a sorority, but not one of friendship. It's a barracks, a boardroom, and a finishing school all rolled into one. The competition is silent but fierce. Every girl is a potential rival for the best kimonos, the most prestigious teachers, the wealthiest patrons. You learn the geography of the house quickly. The ground floor is for business and communal life. The entrance, the kitchens, the main sitting rooms where the oka has and conducts her business. The upper floors hold the small, shared bedrooms for the geisha and apprentices. Your room is little more than a closet, shared with two other shikomi. Your bed is a thin futon on the tatami mat floor. Your only possession a single wooden box for the few drab clothes you're given. One of the most peculiar and frankly, slightly creepy features of the okiya is the presence of small, hidden peepholes. These are not for spying in a malicious sense, or so they say. They are an educational tool. A shikomi might be instructed to kneel silently at one of these holes, peering into a room where a senior geisha is entertaining a private guest or practicing an instrument. It's a way to observe the subtle art of conversation, the way a geisha tilts her head, pours sake, or uses her, and not just to cool herself, but to flirt, to emphasize a point, or to hide a smile. You learn by watching, by absorbing the atmosphere of artistry through a tiny, controlled opening. It's a strange, voyeuristic form of education that underscores how every moment in this world is a performance, even the private ones. The purpose of this initial stage, the shikomi phase, is brutal and simple: to break you, to erase the girl from the rice paddy and forge a blank slate. Your name is taken from you, and you are called by a simple, generic name, or sometimes just girl. Your opinions don't matter. Your feelings are an inconvenience. Your fatigue is a weakness to be overcome. You are being taught to endure, to obey, and to anticipate the needs of others before they are even spoken. This absolute subservience is the foundation upon which all the artistry will later be built. You cannot become a graceful dancer if you cannot first learn to scrub a floor without complaint. The question of why this system was so harsh is one that historians approach from different angles. Some argue it was a practical necessity, a way to instill the immense discipline required for the art form. Others see it as a reflection of the rigid, hierarchical social structures of the time, and a more critical view suggests it was a deliberate system of control designed to make a young girl so dependent on the okiya, so stripped of her own identity, that she would never dream of leaving. The truth, as always, is likely a complex mix of all three. You watch the maiko practice their dances, their fans fluttering like butterflies. You watch the geiko tune their shamisen, the three-stringed lute, their fingers moving with a speed and precision that seems magical. And as you wring out your cleaning rag, your knuckles read in draw from the cold water. You wonder if you will ever get there. This house is a prison of impeccable taste. Every object is beautiful, every sound is measured, but you can feel the pressure of it, the constant, unspoken demand for perfection. It's in the way the oka's eyes follow you, in the sharp click of a maiko's tongue if you are too slow. It's the crushing weight of beauty, and you are just beginning to feel it settle on your shoulders. Your new name is Hisei, or maybe Fumi, or Kyo. It's a simple, one-syllable piece of a geisha's professional name, the placeholder that is not yet yours. You are borrowing it. The real you, the girl who knew the names of the birds and the fields and the feel of mud between her toes, is being systematically erased. This process of erasure is the core of the shikomi training, and it begins not with a lesson in art, but with a broom and a bucket. Your days start in the bone-chilling dark. The first sound you hear is a sharp clap from one of the senior maids, a signal that cuts through your shallow, exhausted sleep. You and the other shikomi scramble from your futons, folding them with practiced speed and storing them away. There is no time for lingering, no moment for a quiet yawn. The house must be awakened before its real residents, the geiko and maiko, stir. The list of chores is endless, a Sisyphean cycle that resets every single day. You sweep the tatami mats, carefully, in the direction of the weave. You wipe down every inch of the polished wooden hallways and stairs, using a damp cloth on your hands and knees. You learn that a single footprint left on the wood is a cardinal sin, an offense that earns you a sharp rebuke or, worse, the silent, disappointed stare of the Okazan. You clean the communal bathrooms, a task no one wants, scrubbing them until they are spotless. You help in the kitchen, washing the endless pile of rice bowls and teacups, your hands perpetually raw and chapped from the hot water and harsh soup. Your world shrinks to the size of the okiya. You might be sent on errands to the tofu maker, the fishmonger, the rice merchant, and these brief forays into the bustling streets of the Hanamaki, the geisha district, are your only taste of the outside world. But even then, you are not free. You must walk quickly, your eyes downcast. You must be polite to a fault. You are a representative of your okiya, and your every action reflects on the house. Any mistake, a forgotten night, a moment of dawdling, will be reported back by the ever-watchful eyes of the community. This period is about learning obedience, but it's a specific kind. It's not just about doing what you're told. It's about learning to anticipate needs. You must learn the specific way. A senior geisha likes her tea. You must have her slippers ready the moment she returns to the okiya. You must learn to read the subtle shift in the oka-ace-en's expression and know that it means the front entrance needs to be swept again. Even if you just swept it an hour ago, you are being trained to be invisible, yet indispensable. This demanding physical labor serves a dual purpose. On one hand, it's practical. The house needs to be run. But on the other, it's a form of physical and mental conditioning. It's designed to instill a profound sense of humility and to build physical stamina. The life of a geisha is physically grueling. Hours spent kneeling, wearing heavy garments, performing for demanding clients. It requires an iron will and a resilient body. The endless chores are the crucible in which that resilience is forged. A curious and rather telling detail of this period is the rule about eating. The shikomi always eat last, after the senior geisha and maiko have had their meals, and after the senior maids have eaten. You and the other girls are allowed to eat whatever is left over. This is a powerful, daily reminder of your place in the hierarchy. It's a lesson in status taught through hunger. Some okiya were known to be quite generous, but in others, the leftovers were meager. It was another test of endurance. Another way to strip away your sense of self-worth and replace it with a sense of gratitude for whatever you were given. The psychological toll is immense. You are constantly exhausted. Your body aches from tasks it is not used to. You are surrounded by a language of art and beauty that you are not yet a part of. You hear the maiko practicing their songs, their voices floating down the hallways. While you are scrubbing a toilet, you see them being praised for a well-executed dance step, while you are being scolded for not wringing out a rag properly. It is a deliberate and profound exercise in alienation. You must feel worthless before you can be deemed worthy of being built back up in the okiya's image. Historians often struggle with the records of this period, as the lives of shikomi were rarely documented. Their stories exist mostly in the memoirs of famous geisha, recounted decades later. This creates a kind of survivorship bias. We hear the stories of the ones who made it, the ones who successfully endured the process, the stories of the girls who couldn't take it, who ran away or were sent back to their villages in disgrace, are largely lost to time. How many girls started this journey and never finished? This is one of those questions that academic research can hint at, but never fully answer. One evening, after a particularly grueling day, where you were scolded for being too slow, for spilling water, and for not bowing low enough, you lie on your futon, every muscle in your body screaming in protest. You can hear the distant, haunting sound of a shamisen being played by one of the senior geisha. The music is beautiful, achingly so. It speaks of a world of grace and emotion that feels a million miles away from your reality of pain and exhaustion. In that moment, the system works its cruel magic. You don't just resent the music, you yearn for it. You want to be the one creating that beauty, not the one cleaning up after it. And that spark of desperate longing is exactly what the oka-ace-en is waiting for. It's the sign that the old you is finally broken, and the new you is ready to be built. Just when you think your body can take in any new ways, your real lessons begin. And the first one doesn't involve a fan or a musical instrument. It involves the floor. You are taught how to sit, or more accurately, you are taught how to kneel. This posture, known as Sei-ai-te, is the default position for existence in this world. It is the posture of respect, of performance, of waiting, of simply being. And at first, it is pure, unadulterated agony. A senior maid, or sometimes a less occupied maiko with a mischievous glint in her eye, will instruct you. You fold your legs neatly beneath you, your shins flat against the tatami mat, the tops of your feet resting on the floor. Your back must be perfectly straight, your shoulders relaxed, your hands resting palms down on your thighs. For the first 30 seconds, it feels formal, even elegant. After a minute, you feel a dull throb in your ankles. After 2 minutes, your feet begin to fall asleep, a tingling, pins and needle sensation that is deeply unpleasant. After 5 minutes, it's a searing, white-hot pain that screams from your ankles up to your knees. But you are not allowed to move. You are not allowed to fidget, to shift your weight, or to show any sign of discomfort on your face. Your expression must remain serene, a placid lake untouched by the volcanic eruption happening in your lower limbs. This is your first true lesson in the separation of body and presentation. Your body can be screaming, but the art you present to the world must be one of effortless calm. You must sit in Sei-ai for hours. You sit this way during your meager meals. You sit this way when receiving instructions from the oka as an. And soon, you will sit this way for hours on end during your lessons in dance, music, and tea ceremony. It is a fundamental, non-negotiable part of your physical vocabulary. The pain is not seen as a problem. It is seen as part of the training. It is a barrier to be broken through. The senior geisha can sit in Sei-ai for an entire evening's banquet, moving only to pour sake or perform. There, grace seemingly unbothered by the position. This is the standard you must meet. To help you, the teachers employ methods that are effective, if not kind. Sometimes, a thin bamboo stick will be placed across the backs of your thighs. If you try to relax or shift, the pressure on the stick will be a sharp, painful reminder to maintain the posture. It trains your muscles to hold the position without conscious thought. Day after day, you nail. The pain eventually subsides, not because it goes away, but because your body surrenders, your nerves deaden, your joints adapt, and the posture that was once torture becomes your natural state of rest. It becomes instinct. This constant kneeling has long-term consequences. Many geisha suffered from permanent joint problems, poor circulation in their legs, and arthritis later in life. It was a professional hazard, a physical sacrifice baked into the very foundation of the art form. The elegant stillness you see in a photograph of a geisha is the product of thousands of hours of pain, a pain that reshaped her body from the inside out. An interesting and somewhat bizarre aspect of this training relates to the feet. While enduring Sei-ai's, a girl's feet were expected to remain perfectly composed. It was considered unseemly for the feet to splay outwards or for the ankles to roll. To correct this, a truly strange method was sometimes used. A small, heated stone might be placed between the girl's big toes as she kneeled. The discomfort would force her to keep her feet perfectly aligned, training the muscles to hold that specific, aesthetically pleasing position. It's a tiny detail, but it speaks volumes about the level of control that was expected, right down to the very tips of your toes. Why was this posture so important? Academically, the significance of Sei-ai is complex. It's rooted in samurai etiquette and was formalized as the correct way to sit during the Edo period, the same era when geisha culture was solidifying. It conveys respect and readiness, as one can move into a bow or stand up from Sei-ai more quickly and gracefully than from a cross-legged position. But for the geisha, it was more than just etiquette. It was a physical manifestation of their role. It is a contained, controlled, and fundamentally non-threatening posture. It communicates humility and a readiness to serve, which was a key part of their appeal to their clientele. Now, your official lessons in the arts begin. You are led into a small room where an elderly woman with a spine like a steel rod waits for you. She is your dance instructor, but before you learn a single step, you must learn how to bow. You kneel and say "Aizue," and she shows you how to slide your hands forward onto the floor, creating a triangle with your thumbs and forefingers, and lower your head until your forehead touches the mat. Your movements must be fluid, precise, and silent. You do it again, and again, and again. Then, you learn how to stand up from say "Aizue." It is not simply a matter of getting to your feet. It is a choreographed move, a single, flowing motion that must be executed without any wobbling or hesitation. You learn how to open and close a sliding screen. The fusuma. Your hand must be at the right height, the pressure just enough to move it smoothly in its track. The sound is soft, satisfying show. There is an art to everything. There are no mundane movements in this world. You spend weeks just on these basics. Kneeling, bowing, standing, walking, opening doors. It is monotonous. It is frustrating. You want to dance, to hold a beautiful fan, to feel like the maiko you see gliding through the halls. But you are being rebuilt from the ground up. The way you sat, stood, and walked your entire life was wrong. It was the walk of a farm girl. You must now learn the walk of an artist, a living doll. And the process starts here, on the hard floor, with your legs folded beneath you, learning to smile through the pain. Your legs have finally surrendered to say "Aizue." The pain replaced by a dull, constant ache that you've learned to ignore. Now, you must learn to move. The dance teacher, a stern woman whose quiet disappointment is more cutting than any shout, turns her attention to your walk. You think you know how to walk. It's putting one foot in front of the other. You are about to discover how profoundly wrong you are. The ideal geisha walk is not a walk at all. It is a glide. It is the illusion of floating. The body is held perfectly still from the waist up, while the feet take tiny, rapid, sliding steps to an observer. It looks as if the geisha is being pulled along by an invisible string. Her movements, serene and impossibly smooth. This is not how a normal human being moves. This is the movement of a doll, and you must now become that doll. Your first lesson is in posture. You are made to stand with a book balanced on your head. Your shoulders must be back and down, your chin slightly tucked, your spine elongated as if an invisible thread is pulling you up from the crown of your head. You must stand like this for what feels like an eternity. If the book falls, you start again. The purpose is to build the core strength needed to keep your torso perfectly still while your legs are in motion. Next, you are taught the steps themselves. They are called suryu-sai, the sliding feet. You do not lift your feet from the floor. You slide them, the balls of your feet skimming the surface of the tatami. The steps are minuscule, your toes pointed slightly inward, in a pigeoned fashion that was considered demure and feminine. You practice this up and down the hallway, back and forth, over and over. Your hips are not supposed to sway. Your arms are not supposed to swing. Your head is not supposed to bob. You are to be a column of silent grace. It feels ridiculous. You feel like a penguin, shuffling awkwardly. Your natural stride wants to break free. Your arms want to swing for balance, but the teacher is relentless. A tap of her fan on your shoulder means you are slouching. A sharp no means your steps are too big. She forces you to focus on the intimate relationship between your feet and the floor, a connection you have never once thought about. The reason for this highly specific way of walking is deeply tied to the kimono, a garment you have yet to wear, but whose ghost already dictates your every move. A full kimono is long and narrow, restricting the legs. Taking large steps is physically impossible. Swinging your arms would disturb the elegant lines of the long sleeves. The walk is a direct consequence of the clothing. It is a beautiful solution to a practical problem, which over time became the aesthetic standard itself. To help you master this, a rather clever, if uncomfortable, training tool is sometimes used. A long piece of paper, or sometimes a strip of silk, is placed between your knees. You must walk the length of the corridor without dropping it. This forces you to keep your thighs pressed together, promoting the small, shuffling steps and preventing your legs from straying too far apart. It's an exercise in extreme control, turning the simple act of walking into a complex and focused meditation. You can imagine the sheer frustration of dropping that piece of paper for the 10th time, the burning shame under the watchful eye of your teacher. Historians often point out that this controlled, inward-turning posture was part of a broader vocabulary of female movement in pre-modern Japan. It was seen as modest and refined, in contrast to the more open, striding postures of men. For the geisha, this was amplified to a theatrical degree. Their movement was a key part of the fantasy they were selling, a fantasy of perfect, unattainable femininity. The academic debate here centers on whether this was an empowering choice or a symbol of oppression. On one hand, mastering this difficult physical art gave a geisha, immense poisoned, a unique kind of power. The power of captivating an audience with a single, graceful turn. On the other hand, it is a walk that is fundamentally restrictive. It is not a walk for running, for hurrying, or for escaping. It is a walk that communicates a beautiful passivity, a body designed for display, not for action. The truth is probably that it was both. It was a to love her trade that also reinforced the limitations of her role. Finally, after weeks of shuffling up and down the hall, like a well-behaved ghost, you begin to learn dance. The dances are not wild or expressive in the way you might imagine. They are slow, deliberate, and full of subtle meaning. They are stories told through the tilt of a head, the precise angle of a fan, the sweep of a long sleeve. The dance is called mai, and it is more about conveying a mood or a line from a poem than it is about athletic movement. Your first prop is a fan, a sensu. It is not just a fan. It is an extension of your arm. It can be a fluttering butterfly, a falling leaf, a wine cup, a sword, or a rising moon. You practice opening it with a sharp, satisfying snap, using only your thumb. You practice closing it with a fluid, silent motion. You drill these movements until they are second nature. The dance itself is a sequence of highly stylized postures, or kata. Each kata has a name and a meaning. You learn them one by one. Your teacher physically moving your arms and body into the correct position, like a sculptor working with clay. It is less about feeling the music and more about perfecting the geometry of your own body. You are not yet an artist. You are a technician, learning the precise mechanics of beauty. And as you hold a difficult pose, your muscles trembling with effort, you realize that the doll-like perfection of a geisha is not a gift. It is earned through sweat, through pain, and through the complete and total submission of your body to the rules of the art. The day has come. It's a day you have been anticipating with a mixture of terror and excitement. Today, you will wear the kimono for the first time. Not just a simple practice robe, but the real thing, or at least, the apprentice version of it. You are brought into a dressing room, a space dominated by large chests of drawers and racks holding folded silks in a rainbow of muted and vibrant colors. Two older women, the house dressers, are waiting for you. Their faces are impassive, their hands sure and practiced. They instruct you to strip down to your undergarments. The first layer is not silk, but a simple cotton underrobe called the hajuban. It's soft and plain. Next comes the nagajuban, a longer robe, often made of a less expensive silk or synthetic blend, which is a proper color. This is the layer that will peek out at the neckline and sleeve openings, so its collar must be perfectly aligned. They pull it tight, crossing the left side over the right. Right over left is reserved for dressing the dead, a chillingly practical detail you are told to never, ever forget. Then the main event begins. They bring out the kimono itself. As a young apprentice in training, yours is still relatively simple compared to what you'll wear later. But to you, it feels like a royal garment. It's made of heavy silk crepe, and it's surprisingly long. They drape it over you, and you immediately feel its weight. This is not like any clothing you have ever known. It is heavy, substantial, a presence in itself. The dressers work with a swift, impersonal efficiency. They wrap the kimono around you, pulling it tight at the hips, ensuring the hemline is at the perfect height. just brushing the tops of your ankles. They use a series of flat silk cords, called koshi-himo, to tie everything in place. They pull them tight, really tight. You instinctively want to breathe in, to expand your chest, but they pull against your breath, forcing the air out of you. The cords are tied in intricate, flat knots that won't create lumps under the final layers. One of the most crucial and uncomfortable parts of the process is the creation of a perfectly cylindrical torso. The traditional Japanese aesthetic did not celebrate curves. A woman's body was supposed to be a smooth, unbroken canvas for the kimono to rest upon. To achieve this, the dressers use padding. Small towels or pads of cloth, called hoshi, are strategically placed around your waist and chest, filling in the natural curve of your back and flattening your bust. You are being sculpted, your body's natural shape deemed imperfect and in need of correction. You are becoming a tube. This cylindrical shape is a key, and often misunderstood, aspect of kimono wearing. It's why the garment can look unflattering if worn without the proper underpinnings. The beauty is not in how it fits the body, but in how the body is transformed to fit the kimono. It's a complete reversal of Western tailoring principles. Next comes the daijimi, a wide, flat sash that is wrapped tightly around your midsection, over the cords and padding, to hold everything securely and create a smooth surface for the main event, the obi. The pressure around your ribs increases. Your ability to take a deep breath is now seriously compromised. You must learn to breathe shallowly, from the top of your chest. This feeling of being bound and constricted is a shock to your system. You feel like you're wearing a suit of armor, but one made of silk. Your movements are instantly smaller, more deliberate. You can't bend at the waist. You can't swing your arms. You can't twist your torso. The kimono is teaching you, forcing you into the posture and movements you've been practicing. It's a wearable cage that dictates your physical reality. A little-known fact is that the sheer cost of these garments was a significant part of the okiya's control. A formal silk kimono, especially one with intricate embroidery or hand-painted designs, could cost more than a car does today. An apprentice would never own her kimonos. They belonged to the okiya. This meant her debt was astronomical from the moment she first wore one. If she damaged it, the cost was added to her tab, binding her ever more tightly to the house. It was a chain made of the most beautiful silk imaginable. Historians are still exploring the full economic impact of the kimono trade within the geisha districts. The creation of these garments supported a vast ecosystem of artisans, silk weavers, dyers, embroiderers, and painters. The okiya were major patrons of these arts. The debate continues on how much of this was cultural preservation versus a calculated business practice designed to inflate the debt and, therefore, the servitude of the women wearing the garments. It was likely both, a perfect synergy of art and commerce. The dressers are not finished. They add the decorative color, the yi-ri, and ensure it is pulled back just so, exposing the nape of your neck, an area considered particularly sensual in Japanese aesthetics. Finally, they step back and look at their work. You are encased. You feel stiff, heavy, and breathless. They gesture for you to walk. You take a step, and the muscle memory from your lessons kicks in. The shuffling, sliding walk is now the only one passable. The kimono is the ultimate teacher. You catch a glimpse of yourself in a long mirror. You don't recognize the person staring back at you. The garment is beautiful, a cascade of color and pattern, but the person inside it looks trapped, small, quiet, dull, waiting for instructions. The weight on your shoulders is no longer just metaphorical. It is real, it is heavy, and it smells of silk and camphor. You are standing there, a newly wrapped parcel of girl in silk, feeling the immense weight and pressure of the kimono. You think the ordeal must be over. You are wrong. Now comes the centerpiece, the element that transforms the kimono from a mere garment into a wearable sculpture, the obi. For a maiko, the obi is the most spectacular part of her attire. It is a thick, heavy band of brocade silk, often over 4 meters long and 30 centimeters wide. It is a riot of color and intricate patterns, gold and silver threads, Symbols of luck and nature. The one chosen for you today is a brilliant red, woven with golden crayons. It is breathtakingly beautiful. It is also a formidable instrument of constriction. The dresser takes the obi and folds it in half lengthwise. She places the center of it against your stomach, just below your bust, on top of the already tight date Jimmy sash. Then, she begins to wrap. She wraps it around your torso once, twice, pulling with all her strength. The air whooshes out of your lungs in a startled gasp. Any remaining space you had for a deep breath is now gone. Your diaphragm is locked. Your breathing is reduced to shallow, bird-like sips of air from the very top of your chest. This is not an exaggeration. The pressure is intense, like a constant, unyielding hug from someone who dramatically overestimates their own strength. It forces you into an unnaturally perfect posture. Slouching is not an option. The obi acts as a rigid corset, holding your spine straight. You feel like a pillar, solid and unbending. The dresser isn't done. After wrapping the obi around you, she must tie the knot. And for a maiko, the knot is a performance in itself. It's called the dera ri obi, or dangling obi. The ends of the sash are tied in a complex, decorative knot at the back, with the two long tails left to hang down, sometimes reaching almost to the ankles. This knot is so large and heavy that it requires its own understructure, a pillow-like bustle called an obi imakura. To support its shape, the whole contraption is secured with yet more cords. The obi jimmy and obi h, which are themselves decorative elements. The weight of the knot at your back is substantial. It acts as a counterbalance, further enforcing the straight-backed posture and the forward-leaning, shuffling gait. You are being physically engineered for a specific aesthetic. The feeling is one of complete and total bodily control, but the control is external. The kimono and obi are in charge of your body now. You are just along for the ride. A truly strange and little-known fact about the obi is its historical evolution. In the early Edo period, the obi was a much narrower, simpler cord, tied in a small, neat knot. As the culture of the floating world became more competitive and ostentatious, the obi grew wider, longer, and more flamboyant. It became a billboard for the wearer's status and the okiyo's wealth. Some fashion historians humorously compare it to an arms race of silk, with each tea house and geisha district trying to outdo the others with more and more spectacular sashes. The elaborate, back-tying knots for women only became mainstream in the mid-Edo period. Before that, both men and women often tied their sashes in the front or at the side. The long, dangling dara ri obi is exclusive to maiko. It's a symbol of her youth and apprentice status. When she graduates to become a full geiko, she will wear a shorter, more subdued knot called the taiko musubi, the drum knot, which is folded and tied into a neat, boxy shape at her back. The change in obi style is a major rite of passage, a visual signal to the world that she has completed her training. So why this intense constriction? The academic discussion around this is fascinating. From a practical standpoint, the wide obi helped create the desired cylindrical silhouette and kept the heavy kimono in place. Aesthetically, it drew attention to the back, particularly the nape of the neck, which, when framed by the collar and the elaborate hairstyle, was considered the height of feminine allure. But there's a more symbolic interpretation. The tightly bound torso restricts not just breathing, but also large, expressive gestures. It forces a woman into a state of graceful containment. It communicates modesty, control, and a certain physical vulnerability that was part of the geisha's appeal. She was a piece of art, perfectly presented and perfectly controlled. You stand there, fully encased, the weight of the silk, the pressure of the obi, the precarious balance of your entire being. You feel a wave of dizziness from the shallow breathing. The dresser notices and gives you a small sip of water. You'll get used to it, she says, her voice not unkind, but factual. It's the mantra of this world. The pain, the discomfort, the suffocation. It's all just something you'll get used to. They led you out of the dressing room to show the oka as Anne. You move with the tiny, hesitant steps the kimono demands. The oka as Anne looks you over, her eyes missing nothing. She walks a slow circle around you, adjusting the angle of a fold here, tucking a loose thread there. She doesn't comment on the beauty of the kimono or your appearance. She assesses it like a general inspecting a soldier's uniform. She is checking the quality of the work, the investment on display. She nods. A single, sharp motion. It is acceptable. You are to spend the rest of the day wearing this, not performing, just existing. You will help with light chores. You will sit and say I, CA for hours. You will walk the hallways. It is an acclimatization process. Your body must learn to live and function within these beautiful, suffocating confines. As you try to navigate a simple doorway, you realize you have to turn sideways to get the wide, decorative knot through. Every simple action is now a complex negotiation between your body and the clothes that bind it. This isn't just an outfit, it's a new way of life. Your body is now a prisoner of silk. Your posture is dictated by the OBI. Your walk by the narrow hem. Now, it is time to address your face. It is time to erase you completely and paint a new person on top. You are taken to a small room with a low mirror and a bewildering array of pots, brushes, and powders laid out on a small table. They senior maiko, perhaps only a few years older than you, but with the authority of a seasoned veteran, is your guide for this transformation. She gestures for you to kneel before the mirror. The first step, she explains, is not to add, but to prepare the canvas. She hands you a pot of thick, waxy oil called bntsuk yaibira. You are to rub this all over your face, your neck, and down your upper back and chest. It's a primer. It helps the thick white makeup adhere to the skin and, in theory, protects your skin from the makeup itself. It feels heavy and greasy, like you're coating your face in candle wax. It clogs your pores instantly. Once your face is a sticky, slick surface, the main event begins. She shows you a small, white block. This is the traditional Oshiro eye, the white foundation. She scrapes a little of it into the small bowl and mixes it with water, whisking it with a small brush until it becomes a smooth, white paste. The consistency has to be perfect. Too thin, and it will be streaky. Too thick, and it will crack when you move your face. Then, she hands you a wide, flat brush. You dip it into the paste and begin to paint your own face. The makeup is cool against your skin, and it smells faintly of clay and something metallic you can't quite place. You start with your neck, then your chest and upper back, then finally, your face. You are painting yourself white, covering every inch of your natural skin tone. You are becoming a blank page. The application is not a simple, uniform coating. There is an art to it. The most iconic and important part of the Oshiro eye application is what you don't paint. At the back of your neck, you must leave 2, or sometimes 3, unpainted V-shaped stripes of bare skin. This pattern is called your eye is high. It's designed to accentuate the nape of the neck, creating the illusion of a longer, more elegant neck, framed by the color of the kimono. For a new maiko like you, the pattern is a simple to strike design. More senior geisha might use a more elaborate 3-stripe pattern for formal occasions. On your face, you must leave a faint, unpainted border around your hairline. This is a subtle but crucial detail. It gives the impression of a mask, a deliberate artifice, rather than an attempt to look like a person with naturally white skin. It's a constant reminder that this is a performance. The geisha's face is not her face. It is a work of art she wears. You look in the mirror at your half-finished work. Your face is a ghostly, wet, white canvas. It doesn't look like you. It doesn't even look human. It looks like a statue. The senior maiko inspects your work, clicking her tongue and using a small sponge to blend a streaky area. To sharpen the lines of the yi or eye is high. Perfection is the only acceptable standard. One of the more surprising details about this makeup process is its sheer inconvenience. Once applied, you cannot touch your face. An accidental smudge can ruin the entire look, requiring a lengthy and difficult repair. Eating and drinking become complex logistical challenges. You learn to eat with tiny, careful bites, and to drink from a cup or glass without letting your lips touch the rim, often using a straw. It's another layer of constant, conscious control added to your day. The historical basis for the white makeup is a subject of some debate among scholars. The most common theory is that it originated from the need to be seen in the dim, flickering candlelight of tea houses and banquet halls. The white base would catch the light, making the geisha's face luminous and visible from across the room. It also had aristocratic roots, as pale skin had long been a sign of beauty and high status in many East Asian cultures, signifying a life lived indoors, away from the sun and manual labor. It was a way for the geisha, who often came from humble backgrounds, to project an image of nobility and refinement. But what was in this white paint? For centuries, the highest quality and most prized oshiro, I was made with a terrifying ingredient, white lead. The lead gave the makeup its coveted smooth, opaque, and slightly luminous finish. The dangers of lead were not fully understood, but its cosmetic properties were unparalleled. You are, quite literally, painting your face with poison. You finish the application. Your face is now a perfect, smooth, white mask. The greasy feeling of the wax base is sealed under the drying, tightening layer of white paint. It feels like your skin can't breathe. You try to smile, and the makeup pulls at the corners of your mouth, a physical reminder not to make any large, expressive facial movements. Your face is no longer for expressing your own emotions. It is for displaying a carefully constructed image of serene beauty, the real you, with your own skin tone. Your own freckles, your own tired eyes, is buried underneath, and the blank page is now ready for the details to be drawn in. Your face is a pristine, white canvas, tightened expressionless. It feels less like skin and more like a plaster cast you are wearing. Now, you must confront the beautiful, silent killer in that makeup. The senior maiko doesn't tell you this. Of course, no one speaks of it. It's just part of the cost of beauty, an unspoken and accepted risk. The brilliant white of your oshiro eye comes from lead. Day after day, you will paint this toxic substance onto your skin. You paint it on your face, your neck, your chest, in your upper back. It is absorbed through your pores. A slow, steady, and cumulative poisoning that will be your constant companion for your entire career. In the beginning, you notice nothing. You are young. Your body is resilient, but the lead is patient. It is building up in your blood, in your bones, in your nervous system. The irony is that the lead-based makeup initially gives the illusion of perfect skin. It was famous for its smooth, flawless coverage, but over time, it betrayed the wearer. The lead itself caused severe skin problems. It would dry out the skin, leading to premature wrinkles, cracks, and a grayish, discolored complexion. The very thing used to create an image of beauty was actively destroying the natural beauty underneath. Many older, retired geisha were known to have terribly damaged, sallow skin, a permanent reminder of the mask they once wore. But the damage was far more than skin deep. Chronic lead poisoning, or plummeism, is a devastating condition with a horrifying range of symptoms. It attacks the nervous system, leading to tremors, headaches, and irritability. It causes severe abdominal pain, a condition sometimes referred to as painter's colic. It can lead to anemia, kidney damage, and developmental problems, which was particularly tragic for the very young girls starting their training. You, as a young maiko, might start to experience the early signs without understanding their source. You might feel a persistent, low-grade nausea. You might have trouble concentrating during your lessons, a fogginess of the mind that you blame on fatigue. You might have joint and muscle pain that you attribute to your grueling dance practice or the hours spent in, say, eyes EA. You would have no idea that your own face was the source of the poison seeping into your body. A particularly cruel and unusual symptom of lead poisoning is the formation of something called a Burton's line. This is a thin, blue-black line that can appear on the gums, near the teeth. It's caused by a reaction between circulating lead in the body and the sulfur produced by bacteria in the mouth. The geisha, obsessed with every detail of her appearance, might have noticed this strange discoloration in her mouth, never realizing it was a clinical sign of the poison she was applying every single day. It's a chillingly intimate detail, a secret message from her body that she would not have known how to read. The use of lead in cosmetics wasn't exclusive to Japan. The ancient Romans and Egyptians used it, and European aristocrats in the 16th and 17th centuries famously used a lead-based makeup called Venetian cerus to achieve a fashionable pale complexion. Queen Elizabeth I of England was one of its most famous users. It was an international pact with a beautiful devil, a shared history of suffering for a deadly standard of beauty. The Japanese government officially banned lead in cosmetics in 1934. However, the transition was slow. The lead-based powders were considered superior in quality, and for a world built on tradition, change was not always welcome. There's an ongoing discussion among historians and cosmetic scientists about how long the old, toxic formulas remained in use, especially in the more isolated or traditional geisha districts. It's plausible that many women continued to use the lead-based oshiro they were accustomed to, either out of habit or because they genuinely preferred its finish. Long after the ban was put in place, the legacy of the poison likely lingered for decades. As you sit there, in front of the mirror, you are a perfect picture of the cruel paradox of your profession. To the outside world, you are becoming the epitome of health, purity, and refined beauty. Your white face is a symbol of perfection. But beneath that mask, the battle is already beginning. Your body is fighting a silent war against the very tools of your trade. The lead is a quiet partner in your transformation, a secret ingredient in the recipe for your beauty. The senior maiko dips a soft cloth in water and gently dabs around your face, smoothing the final layer of white powder. She is careful not to smudge the pristine surface. Her own face, also a perfect white mask, is serene. Does she know? Does the oka? As in no. It's impossible to say. Perhaps the connection was never made. Perhaps the chronic illnesses and ailments that plagued so many geisha were simply accepted as a part of life. A mysterious woman's trouble, or the inevitable price of a demanding career. Or perhaps they did know, and it was simply a calculated risk, a sacrifice deemed necessary on the altar of art. You look at your reflection, at the beautiful, deadly mask staring back at you, and you are too young and too overwhelmed to ask. The white mask is complete, the perfect porcelain slate. Now it's time to add the features that will transform it from a blank canvas into the iconic face of a maiko. The senior maiko takes a small pot of black ink and a very fine brush. She begins with your eyebrows. Your own eyebrows have been mostly plucked or shaved into a thin, unobtrusive line. On top of this, a new set of brows is painted. They are soft, charcoal-colored arches, placed slightly higher on your forehead than your natural brows. This creates an open, youthful, and slightly surprised expression. Sometimes, a hint of red pigment is also added to the eyebrows, a subtle detail that adds warmth and is unique to a maiko's look. Next, she moves to your eyes. She uses the same black ink to line your upper eyelid. A simple, clean line, but the defining feature is the red pigment she applies to the outer corners of your eyes. It's a sweep of brilliant crimson that frames the eye, making it appear larger and more striking. This red accent is one of the key signifiers of a maiko. It's a symbol of her youth and immaturity. As she progresses through her apprenticeship, the amount of red she wears will gradually decrease. A senior geiko, by contrast, will wear very little, if any, red around her eyes, her makeup becoming more subtle and subdued with age and experience. Then comes the most iconic detail of all, the lips. The senior maiko takes a small pot of vivid red pigment, called beni, and a fine lip brush, but she doesn't paint your entire lips. For a first-year maiko like you, the rule is strict and symbolic. You are only allowed to paint a small patch on your lower lip. Your upper lip must remain completely white. You pucker your lips slightly, and she carefully paints a perfect flower bud shape onto the center of your bottom lip. The effect is startling. It creates the illusion of a tiny, pouty mouth, a rosebud pout that was considered incredibly alluring and demure. It's meant to look like a flower that has not yet fully bloomed, a direct visual metaphor for your status as an apprentice. You are not yet a complete woman. You are a bud, full of promise. This tradition of the partially painted lip is a complex piece of visual language. As you advance in your training, you will be allowed to paint your full lower lip, and eventually, a thin line on your upper lip as well. Only a full-fledged geiko has the right to paint both lips completely, and even then, she will often paint them slightly smaller than their natural shape to maintain that delicate, doll-like aesthetic. The red pigment itself, the beni, has a fascinating and frankly bizarre origin. It was harvested from the tiny petals of the safflower, denibana. The process was incredibly labor-intensive. It took thousands of flower petals to produce a tiny amount of high-quality pigment. The red paste was often sold in small, ceramic bowls. When it dried, it would take on an iridescent, green-gold sheen. To use it, a geisha would dip her wet brush into the bowl, and the pigment would magically transform back into a brilliant, clear red. This expensive and almost magical cosmetic was a symbol in itself. Owning a bowl of high quality beni was a sign of a successful geisha. This practice of painting a smaller mouth connects to a broader aesthetic principle in Japanese art and design known as ma, which relates to the importance of negative space. The unpainted white space around the small red bud of the lip is just as important as the red itself. It creates a sense of tension and focus, drawing the viewer's eye to the small point of color. It is beauty by suggestion, not by full disclosure. Historians and cultural critics are still debating the full meaning of this practice. Was it purely an aesthetic choice, a fashion statement within the floating world, or did it carry a deeper, more repressive meaning? The argument can be made that by visually shrinking the mouth, it symbolically silenced the woman. A small, bud-like mouth is not one for speaking loudly, for arguing, or for expressing strong opinions. It is a mouth for quiet sips of tea and for carefully chosen, poetic words. It reinforces the ideal of the geisha as a beautiful, pleasing object, whose own voice is secondary to her art and her ability to delight her patrons. It's a fascinating intersection of art, symbolism, and social control, all contained in a single brushstroke of red. The senior maiko steps back to inspect her work. Your face in the mirror is a stranger's. The high, soft eyebrows give you an air of perpetual innocence. The red-rimmed eyes are dramatic and doll-like, and the single spot of red on your lower lip is a stark, lonely point of color in a sea of white. It's the face of a maiko. It's a mask of youth, beauty, and submission. You are instructed not to smile broadly, not to laugh with an open mouth. Any such expression would crack the perfect porcelain unfinished and, more importantly, break the illusion of the tiny, flower bud mouth. Your smile must now be a subtle, mysterious curve, a slight upward tilt of the corners of your carefully painted lips. Your joy, like everything else about you, must be contained, controlled, and artistically presented. The transformation is almost complete. You have been given a new body, a new walk, and now a new face. Your face is a painted mask. Your body is a silk-bound column. The final piece of the sculpture is your hair, and this, you will soon learn, may be the most grueling and painful part of your entire transformation. You are not given a wig, not yet. As a maiko, you must use your own hair, sculpted into one of the traditional, elaborate hairstyles known as nihon gami. You are taken to a specialized hairdresser, a master of this dyeing art. The process begins with another coating of that thick, sticky wax, the bentsuke aibura, the same stuff you used as a primer for your makeup, but this time, it's worked through every strand of your long, clean hair. The wax gives the hair texture and grip, making it pliable and strong enough to be shaped and to hold that shape for a week at a time. Your hair, once soft and free, now feels heavy, stiff, and greasy. The hairdresser then begins the process of shaping. Using a variety of sharp, pointed boxwood cones, she separates your hair into sections. She pulls hard. The tension on your scalp is immediate and intense. She backcombs sections to create volume, then smooths the outer layers over the top with more wax. creating sleek, sculptural shapes. The main style for a junior maiko is called wear shinobu. It's a complex creation with a large, rounded bun on top that is parted down the middle to reveal a slash of red silk fabric tucked inside. 2 wings of hair are shaped out to the sides, and a long tail is formed at the back of the neck. Each section of hair is pulled taut, twisted, and pinned into place with a combination of paper cords and sharp metal hairpins. The hairdresser's movements are precise and economical, but not gentle. This is not a relaxing salon experience. It is construction. She is building a sculpture on your head, and your scalp is the foundation. The constant pulling and the sharp points of the comb scraping against your skin are a new kind of torture. A sharp, searing pain that is very different from the dull ache of sais. To create the smooth, perfect curves and wings of the hairstyle, a heated metal tool, like a primitive curling iron, is sometimes used. The smell of hot wax and singed hair fills the air. The hairdresser works with an artist's focus, her face a mask of concentration. She is not concerned with your comfort. She is concerned with the integrity of the lines, the smoothness of the surface, the perfect balance of the silhouette. Finally, the ornaments are added. These are called kanzashi, furimako. The kanzashi are elaborate and seasonal. In the spring, she might wear dangling hairpins with silk cherry or plum blossoms. In the fall, they might be tiny silk maple leaves. As a junior maiko, your kanzashi are particularly spectacular. You will wear long, dangling floral ornaments called chidere kanzashi, and a special pin called a bairabira, which has small metal strips that flutter and catch the light when you move your head. These beautiful, delicate objects are pinned into the stiff, waxed structure of your hair, adding even more weight and complexity to the edifice on your head. A strange and little known fact about these hairstyles is that they were, in a way, a historical calendar. You could tell the month, and sometimes even the specific festival, by looking at a maiko's hair ornaments. The tradition of seasonal kanzashi is still practiced today and is one of the most charming aspects of geisha culture. It's a subtle, beautiful way of connecting their art to the natural world. The finished hairstyle is a masterpiece of tension. It is heavy, rigid, and pulls at your scalp from every direction. You can feel a headache beginning to bloom at the base of your skull. And the most terrifying part, this hairstyle is meant to last for an entire week. You will not wash your hair. You will not brush it. You will live with this tight, waxy, painful sculpture on your head for 7 straight days. The debate amongst social historians about the Nihongami hairstyles is multifaceted. On one level, they are stunning examples of craftsmanship and a living tradition of hair artistry. They are undeniably beautiful and a key part of the geisha's iconic image. However, from a feminist perspective, they can be seen as another to love control. The hairstyle is so restrictive and requires such careful maintenance that it profoundly limits a woman's freedom. The pin is a constant reminder of the discipline required by her role. Like the kimono, it's a beautiful cage, one that she wears on her very head. It's a level of commitment to an aesthetic that is almost unimaginable in the modern world. You look in the mirror, turning your head slowly, afraid to disturb the masterpiece. The wear shinobu style, with its parted bun under red accent, is a symbol of your innocent, cracked peach stage of apprenticeship. It's beautiful. It's a work of art, but the throbbing in your scalp is a brutal counterpoint to that beauty. You have been shaped, painted, and now sculpted. Every part of you has been remade according to a strict and unforgiving blueprint. The hairdresser gives you a final, approving nod. The construction is complete. Now comes the impossible part, living with it. The sculpture on your head is complete. A tight, heavy, then painfully beautiful helmet of your own hair. The hairdresser gives you a stern look and a single, crucial instruction. Do not ruin it. This hairstyle, this wear shinobu that took hours of painful construction, must be preserved in a pristine state for an entire week. The immediate, terrifying question that flashes through your mind is, how am I supposed to sleep? The answer is waiting for you back at the okiya. It is an object that looks less like a pillow and more like a miniature piece of furniture. or perhaps a strange, artistic torture device. It is called the tak, amakuka, or tall pillow. It is not soft. It is not comforting. It is a hard, lacquered, wooden or ceramic box, sometimes with a small, cylindrical cushion stuffed with buckwheat hulls or rice bran tied to the top. This small, hard cushion is the only part that will touch you. A senior maid shows you how to use it. You lie on your side on your futon, and you position the takamakuka so that it supports your neck, right at the base of your skull. Your head, with its precious and precarious hairstyle, floats in the air, untouched by any surface. Your hair must not, under any circumstances, touch the futon. The goal is to sleep while keeping your head perfectly still, balanced on this small, unforgiving pedestal. Your first night with the takamikuka is a sleepless, agonizing ordeal. Every time you begin to drift off, your body's natural instinct to roll over or adjust your position takes over. You jolt awake, terrified that you've shifted and ruined the hairstyle. The hard surface of the pillow digs into your neck. Your neck muscles, already strained from supporting the weight of the hairstyle all day, begin to cramp. Pain radiates from your neck down into your shoulders. It feels impossible. How can anyone sleep like this? You try lying on your back, but the position is just as awkward. The pressure on the back of your neck even more intense. You try your other side. No relief. The hours of the night stretch on. An eternity of dark, silent torment. You are desperately tired, but sleep offers no escape. In fact, the very act of trying to sleep has become a source of anxiety and pain. To encourage young maiko to learn to sleep still, a particularly cruel but effective method was sometimes employed. The senior maids would scatter rice bran or small hard beans on the floor all around the base of the takamikuka. If, in your sleep, you were to knock the pillow over or let your head slip off, your elaborate, waxy hairstyle would be instantly covered in a mess of grain. The shame of waking up like this, and the grueling task of having the maids try to pick every single grain out of your hair, was a powerful deterrent. It was a form of psychological conditioning that used public humiliation as its tool. This bizarre sleeping arrangement has a history that predates the geisha. Elaborate hairstyles were fashionable among aristocratic women for centuries, and the takamakuka was the practical solution to preserving them. For the geisha, it became an essential to love the trade, a symbol of the immense discipline required even in their most private, unconscious moments. There was no off-duty for a maiko. Even in sleep, she was expected to maintain the aesthetic. The long-term health consequences of sleeping on a takamakuka were significant. Chronic neck pain was a given. Many geisha suffered from severe muscle stiffness, pinched nerves, and what we would now call repetitive strain injuries in their neck and shoulders. The constant pressure on the base of the skull could lead to persistent headaches. It was another hidden physical cost, another part of the body sacrificed for the sake of the art. Historians and anthropologists who study the material culture of the geisha world are fascinated by the takamikuka. It is an object that perfectly encapsulates the central theme of cruel beauty. It takes a universal human need, rest, and transforms it into an exercise in painful self-control. It is a physical manifestation of the idea that a geisha's body is not her own. It belongs to the art, to the okia, to the image she must project. 24 hours a day, you lie there in the dark, listening to the soft, even breathing of the other girls in the room. You wonder how they do it. How did they train their bodies to accept this? You can feel every pin and cord in your hairstyle pulling at your scalp. The throbbing is a constant, rhythmic companion to the frantic beating of your own heart. You try to focus on your breathing, the shallow sips of air that the taito bi allows. You try to find a position, any position, that offers even a fleeting moment of comfort. There is none. Sleep, when it finally comes, is not a deep, restorative plunge. It is a shallow, fitful state, more like a series of brief, exhausted blackouts. You wake up dozens of times, your neck screaming in protest. In the morning, when the sharp clap from the maid signals the start of the day, you feel more tired than when you went to bed. Your neck is a knot of solid pain, but you check your hair. It is still perfect. You have survived your first night. Only 6 more to go. The week crawls by in a haze of exhaustion and a constant, throbbing headache that has taken up permanent residence in your skull. The takamigaka has not gotten any more comfortable. Sleep remains a nightly battle against your own body's desire for relief. But the pain from the hairstyle is no longer just in your neck. It has a new, more insidious dimension. Your scalp has begun to itch. The maddening, deep itch under the thick, waxy layers of your hair that you cannot scratch for fear of ruining the style. And then you begin to notice something else. When you are finally taken back to the hairdresser at the end of the week for the style to be taken down, you see an alarming amount of hair in the basin as it's being washed. And when you look closely in the mirror, you see it. Your hairline, especially around your temples and the crown of your head, looks thinner. There are small, sparse patches where the hair is noticeably less dense. This is the grim reality of the Nihongami. Traction alopecia. It's a form of hair loss caused by prolonged or repetitive tension on the hair follicles. The constant, unrelenting pulling from the tight hairstyle literally pulls the hair out by the roots. Over time, this can damage the follicles permanently, meaning the hair will never grow back. For a maiko, who wears these incredibly tight styles day in and day out for years, significant hair loss was an almost unavoidable professional hazard. The spot on the crown of the head where the main bun was anchored was often the most affected. Many senior geisha, after decades of this, developed a permanent bald spot in the center of their heads. It was a secret they carefully hid for the rest of their lives. This condition was so common that it had its own informal name within the geisha world, the geisha's bald spot. It was an open secret, a shared sacrifice among the women of the kaiai or yokai. After graduating from maiko to geiko, they were allowed to switch to wearing high-quality wigs, katsura, for their formal appearances. This was seen as a privilege of seniority, a welcome relief from the daily torture of the Nihongami. But the wigs also served a practical purpose. They covered the damage that had already been done. The irony is deeply cruel. The beautiful, elaborate hairstyle, a symbol of youthful femininity and one of the most admired features of a maiko, was actively destroying her hair. The very thing that was being celebrated was being sacrificed in the process. This is another area where the lived experience of geisha is often glossed over in romanticized depictions. The focus is always on the finished product, the perfect, sculpted hair. The reality of the pain, the itching, the headaches, and the permanent hair loss is rarely discussed. It doesn't fit with the elegant, serene image. When small, sad detail of this experience was the day of washing. The day the hairstyle was taken down and washed was a day of immense relief. The feeling of hot water on your scalp after a week of waxy tension was described by many geisha in their memoirs as a moment of pure, almost spiritual bliss. But it was also a day of anxiety, as you would have to confront the amount of hair you were losing. And it was only a brief respite. The very next day, the entire painful process would begin all along. The hair would be re-waxed, pulled, and pinned back into its rigid prison for another week. The scientific understanding of traction alopecia is now well established, but for centuries, the cause of this hair loss was likely a mystery or simply accepted as an unfortunate, inevitable part of the job. There's a debate among medical historians and hairstylists about whether certain techniques were used to mitigate the damage. Perhaps experienced hairdressers knew how to distribute the tension more evenly, or perhaps certain oils were believed to strengthen the hair. However, given the sheer physical forces involved in creating and maintaining these styles, it's unlikely that any remedy could have fully prevented the damage. It was a direct and unavoidable consequence of the aesthetic demands of the profession. You touch the thin patches at your temples, a cold knot of fear in your stomach. Your hair has always been your own, something you took for granted. Now, it feels like another part of you that is being sacrificed to this demanding art form. You look at the senior maiko in the okia. You try to catch a glimpse of their hairlines to see if they share this secret. But their makeup and hairstyles are always perfect. Their secrets well kept. The pain of the hairstyle is no longer just a physical sensation. It's now tied to a sense of loss. Each pull from the hairdresser's comb feels like a theft. You are paying for your beauty with your own body. Piece by piece, your breath, your waistline, your skin, your sleep, and now, your hair. The cost of becoming a living work of art is far higher than you could have ever imagined. The golden cage is being built around you, and you are providing the materials. You have endured. You have survived the endless chores, the agony of say, Aiziai, the suffocation of the kimono, the poison of the maiko, and the torture of the takamakuga. You have learned the basic steps of the dances, the proper way to bow, and how to exist as a silent, graceful presence. The Okazen has decided that you are ready. The blank slate is prepared. The foundation is set. It is time for your official debut. It is time for your mizudashi. The mizudashi is the formal ceremony that marks your transition from a shikomi, a mere maid in training, to a minarai and then a maiko, a true apprentice geisha. It is your coming out party, your presentation to the world of the hanamaki. It is a day of immense significance, steeped in ritual and symbolism. The preparations are more elaborate than anything you have experienced before. You are dressed in the most spectacular and formal attire a maiko can wear. You put on a special black kimono adorned with auspicious, colorful patterns, koromatsuki, that belong to your okiya. Your obi is the magnificent, dangling dera, or iobi, but today it might be a particularly special one, a masterpiece of weaving. Your face is painted in the full, iconic maiko style, with the red rim dyes in the single painted lower lid. Your hair is in the formal wear shinobu style, adorned with an array of stunning, formal kanzashi, including special ones made of tortoiseshell that are reserved for this ceremony. You are a walking, breathing masterpiece of tradition. You are also incredibly nervous. Your hands are cold and clammy, a feeling you try to hide by keeping them tucked in your sleeves. Today, you will be seen. You will be judged. The ceremony begins within the okiya. You and the Okazen engage in a ritual exchange of sake cups, a ceremony called Sansen Kudo, the same cup-sharing ritual that is central to a traditional Japanese wedding. This is no coincidence. In this ritual, you are being wedded to your new life, to your art, and to your okiya. You are also paired with a senior geisha from your house who will be your older sister, your wani-san. She will be your mentor, your guide, and your protector in the complex social world of the hanamaki. You exchange sake cups with her as well, sealing a bond that will be one of the most important relationships in your professional life. This sisterhood system is the backbone of the geisha community. It's a formal mentorship program that ensures the traditions and, just as importantly, the clients are passed down from one generation to the next. Your one then will introduce you to the tea houses, to her patrons, and teach you the unwritten rules of etiquette that can only be learned through experience. After the private rituals in the okiya, the public part of the mizudashi begins. You, your wani-san, and the okazen, accompanied by a male servant of the okiya carrying a lantern, will proceed to walk through the streets of the hanamaki. This is not a casual stroll. It is a formal procession. You must walk in that slow, gliding suri as high, your expression serene and composed. Despite the storm of emotions inside you, you will visit the key establishments of the district, the official Kanban registry office to have your new name officially recorded. And then, most importantly, the tea houses, ochaya, where you will one day work. At each tea house, the mistress of the house will come out to greet you. There is a formal exchange of greetings and gift envelopes. Your one and introduces you, presenting you as her new little sister. I MO you too. You must bow perfectly, your movements precise and graceful. This procession is a form of public announcement. It says to the entire community, this girl is now one of us. She is a maiko of your okiya's name, house, under the guidance of your wani-san's name. She is now available for engagements. A quirky and charming tradition associated with the mizudashi is the giving of maki, sweet rice cakes. The okiya prepares special maki to be given out to neighbors, patrons, and other houses to celebrate the debut. Another, less well-known tradition involves the maiko's new professional name, or jiimi. The name is often chosen by the oka, as an or a respected patron, and will almost always contain a character from the name of her one isan or from the name of the okiya itself, creating a sense of lineage and continuity. It's like a royal naming tradition, embedding you within a specific, traceable history. The historical significance of the mizudashi is a subject of much scholarly interest. It's a classic rite of passage, a ceremony that marks a fundamental change in an individual's social status. Anthropologists compare it to debutante balls or coming-of-age ceremonies in other cultures. However, the debate continues about the degree to which it was a celebration of the individual versus a commercial advertisement. Was it truly about celebrating you, the girl, or was it about launching a new, valuable product onto the market? The answer, as is so often the case in the world of the geisha, is that it was unequivocally both. Your debut is a moment of personal triumph and pride, but it is also the moment your earning potential is officially activated. As you walk through the lantern-lit streets, you see faces peering at you from doorways and windows. You hear whispers. It's the new girl from the... You are no longer invisible. You are a public figure, a tiny, new star in the constellation of the hanamaki. The weight of the kimono, the pain in your scalp, the tightness in your chest, it all fades into the background, replaced by a profound, terrifying, and exhilarating sense of purpose. You have a name, you have a place, you have a future, laid out before you on these stone-paved streets. The cage is now fully gilded, and the door has been opened for the world to admire the bird inside. Your debut is over. The black formal kimono has been put away. Now, you are a working maiko. Your primary role was to attend banquets and parties, called azeshiki, held in the private rooms of tea houses. But your performance begins long before you pick up an instrument. Your most important and most frequently used instrument is your voice, and your art is the art of conversation. This is a far more complex skill than you might imagine. It is not about expressing your own opinions or sharing stories from your life. The girl from the rice paddy is gone, and her thoughts are irrelevant. Your job is to be a perfect conversational partner for your clients, who are often wealthy, powerful, and much older men. You must be witty, but not sharp. You must be knowledgeable, but not a know-it-all. You must be charming. Charming. Your training in this art is largely observational. During your brief Minori phase, just after your debut, you would simply sit in on parties with your one-isan. You would not speak unless spoken to. You would not perform. Your only job was to watch and to listen. You watched how your older sister poured sake. Her movements is small, graceful ballet. You noted how she laughed. A soft, musical sound. Her hand held delicately in front of her painted lips. You listened to the flow of conversation, to the jokes, to the discussions of business or politics. You were a sponge, absorbing the atmosphere and the unspoken rules of the azeshiki. Now, as a maiko, you are expected to participate. Your one isan will guide you, gently prompting you to speak or to laugh at a client's joke. Your first attempts are clumsy. You are terrified of saying the wrong thing. You learn quickly that the safest topics are light and impersonal. The changing seasons, the beauty of the floral arrangements, praise for the host's taste in art or sake. A key part of the art is making the client feel like the most interesting person in the world. You must listen with rapt attention, your body language open and engaged. You learn to ask leading questions that allow him to talk about himself, his business, his accomplishments. You become an expert in the art of the compliment, delivering praise that sounds sincere and specific, not like empty flattery. The geisha's conversational skill was legendary. They were often better informed about current events and politics than many women of the time, as they were privy to the conversations of the men who shaped the nation. They had to be able to keep up, to understand the context of a discussion, even if they could not openly participate in it. A successful geisha was not just a pretty face. She was a skilled social strategist and an amateur psychologist. A very specific and rather quirky part of this training involved learning the local dialect, or kotoba, of your specific hanamaki. For example, the geisha of Join in Kyoto have their own distinct dialect, the Kyokotoba, which is known for its soft, indirect, and polite expressions. You have to master this. Using the standard Japanese you grew up with would be a mark of an outsider, a sign of being unrefined. It's a subtle linguistic marker that instantly identifies you as belonging to this exclusive world. Learning the nuances of this dialect, the specific endings of verbs, the correct honorific s, is as important as learning the steps to a dance. Of course, the conversation wasn't all serious. A huge part of a maiko's job was to initiate and lead light-hearted drinking games. These games were often simple, like a sophisticated version of rock, paper, scissors, junken, but set to music and song. The loser would have to take a drink. Your job was to be playful and fun, to create a relaxed and joyful atmosphere. You had to know dozens of these games and be able to teach them to the guests. It required a quick mind and a playful spirit, an ability to project an aura of carefree fun, even if you were exhausted and your head was throbbing. The academic world has long been fascinated by the role of the geisha as a conversationalist and confidant. Some historians argue that the tea house functioned as a safe space for men, where they could escape the rigid social hierarchies and pressures of their public lives. With a geisha, a man could speak more freely, knowing that her discretion was absolute. A geisha's code of honor meant that what was said in the azeishiki stayed in the azeishiki. This made them privy to secrets, to business deals, and to political intrigue. The debate, however, lies in how much agency the geisha had in these conversations. Was she a true intellectual partner, or was she a beautiful sounding board, a human mirror reflecting the client's own ego back at him? The reality was likely a spectrum. Some geisha were renowned for their sharp minds and became trusted advisors to their patrons. Others relied more on their beauty and skills in dance and music. But even the most beautiful geisha could not succeed without mastering the basic art of making a man feel witty, powerful, and utterly captivated. If only for an evening. You practice this art every night. You learn which clients are quiet and need to be drawn out, and which ones love the sound of their own voice and simply need an appreciative audience. You learn to gauge the mood of the room, to know when to suggest a game, when to start a new conversation, or when to simply sit in elegant silence. It is a performance as demanding as any dance, a constant, high-wire act of social navigation. You are learning that your value lies not just in your beauty, but in your ability to create a perfect, fleeting moment of escape for someone else, while you are mastering the delicate art of conversation. Another, more physically demanding training is happening in parallel, every day. In the precious few hours between waking up and preparing for the evening's parties, you have your lessons in the art, and for many, the most challenging of these is the shamisen. The shamisen is a 3-stringed, long-necked lute with a square, drum-like body covered in cat or dog skin. It has a distinctive, twanji, and deeply melancholic sound that is the quintessential soundtrack of the floating world. It looks elegant, almost simple, but to play it well is a lifetime's work, and the journey begins with pain. Your music teacher is, like all your other teachers, a stern and demanding elder. She shows you how to hold the instrument, how to sit in perfect sei-iza with the body of the shames unresting on your lap. She shows you how to hold the large, heavy plectrum, called the bachi, which is used to strike the strings. The bachi is shaped like a ginkgo leaf and is traditionally made of ivory or tortoiseshell. You must hold it with a specific, rigid grip, a grip that feels unnatural and quickly leads to cramps in your hand and wrist. Then, you learn to strike the strings. The goal is not just to produce a note, but to strike the string in the skin-covered body of the instrument at the same time, creating a sharp, percussive sound that is as important as the musical tone. It's loud, Aggressive attack that feels at odds with the graceful image you are supposed to project. Your first attempts are clumsy. You miss the strings. You hit them too softly. The bocce slips in your sweaty hand. The teacher shows no patience for your fumbling. A sharp rap on your knuckles with hoof and reminds you to correct your grip. A sigh of exasperation tells you your rhythm is off. But the real pain comes from your other hand, the one that must press down on the strings on the long, fretless neck, like a violin or a cello. The shamisen has no frets to guide your fingers. You must learn the exact position for each note through muscle memory alone. You press the strings down with the tips of your first 3 fingers. The strings are hardened thin. They dig into the soft, uncalloused skin of your fingertips. After just a few minutes of practice, your fingers are screaming. A deep, burning pain sets in. You are not allowed to stop. You must continue the drills, the scales, the simple folk songs, over and over. The pain means you are doing it right, the teacher says, her voice devoid of sympathy. At the end of your first few lessons, you look at your fingertips. They are red, swollen, and deeply grooved from the pressure of the strings. Soon, blisters will form. The blisters will break, leaving raw, open sores. You still have to practice. The pain is exquisite. You might try to wrap your fingers in small pieces of paper or cloth, but the teacher will just rip them off. You must build the calusas. The calusas are the price of admission. This process is a well-known, if brutal, rite of passage for any shamisen player. A strange and somewhat gruesome tidbit of lore among musicians is the idea that playing with bleeding fingers can stain the soul of the instrument, forging a deeper connection between the player and her shamisen. While likely just a myth to romanticize the suffering, it speaks to how central the idea of pain and sacrifice was to the mastery of the art. Weeks turn into months. You practice every single day. The sores on your fingertips eventually heal, and the skin hardens. Thick, yellowed calusas form, dense and insensitive. You can now press down on the strings without wincing. You have paid the price. Now, the real work of making music can begin. You learn the vast repertoire of songs. The kuda, short songs, and naga uta, long, epic songs that accompany dances and tell famous stories. You learn to sing while you play, your voice telling the story while your fingers provide the sorrowful, sharp punctuation of the shamisen. The academic study of geisha music is a rich field. Musicologists analyze the complex scales, rhythms, and song structures, tracing their origins from theatrical traditions like kabuki and no. There is an ongoing debate about the nature of geisha music. Was it a truly unique folk art form, or was it primarily a derivative art, borrowing heavily from the more serious musical worlds of the theater? The consensus among most scholars is that while it drew from many sources, the geisha world developed its own unique style and repertoire, one characterized by its intimate, chamber music feel and its focus on themes of love, loss, and the transient beauty of the floating world. You sit in your small room in the okiya, late at night, long after the parties are over. Your body aches, your head throbs, but you pick up your shamisen. You practice a difficult passage, your calloused fingers finding the notes on the dark, fretless neck. The sound that comes out is still not perfect, but it is yours. It is the sound of your own pain, transformed into something that is, for a fleeting moment, beautiful. The sorrow. At the heart of the music is no longer an abstract concept. You can feel it in your own fingertips. The moment has arrived. Your one isen has decided you are ready. You are no longer just a decorative, silent apprentice sitting in the corner. Tonight, you will perform for the first time at a real shiki. This is your professional debut as an artist, the culmination of all the painful lessons. You arrive at the tea house with your older sister. The mistress of the house greets you with a low bow, and you are led through a maze of polished wooden corridors to a private room. The paper screens slide open, and you step inside. The room is a perfect picture of minimalist beauty. A single scroll painting in the alcove, a simple but exquisite flower arrangement, and kneeling on the tatami mats are the guests. There are 3 of them tonight, powerful-looking men in dark, elegant kimonos or sharp western suits. They stop their conversation and turn to look at you. For a moment, you are frozen. It's one thing to practice in a sterile lesson room in front of a critical teacher. It's another thing entirely to be the focus of attention for paying clients. Their eyes are on you, assessing, expectant. The air is thick with the smell of expensive food, warm sake, and a faint hint of cologne. Your one ease and glides in gracefully, taking charge of the room with an effortless charm. She makes the introductions, her voice a warm, musical sound. You bow low, your forehead nearly touching the floor, your heart hammering against your ribs. You kneel beside your sister, your back perfectly straight, your hands on your lap, trying to project an aura of serene calm that you absolutely do not feel. The evening begins with conversation and drinks. You pour the sake, your hands trembling slightly as you handle the small ceramic flask and cups. You try to remember your lessons. Hold the flask with both hands. Do not fill the cup to the brim. Serve the most important guest first. You participate in the conversation with quiet, pre-rehearsed phrases, smiling when your sister smiles, laughing softly when she laughs. Then, the moment comes. One of the guests turns to your one-niece and says, "Let's see what your new little sister can do." Your one-niece and gives you a subtle, encouraging nod. It's time. You and she move to the small, cleared space at the front of the room that serves as a makeshift stage. Another geisha, a more senior one who specializes in music, kneels at the side with her shamisen. The sharp, percussive notes of the introduction begin to play. You are to perform a simple dance, one you have practiced 1,000 times. It's a short, seasonal piece about the falling of maple leaves. You take your fan, opening it with a snap that sounds deafeningly loud in the quiet room. You begin to move. The world narrows to the small space of the tatami mat. You try to forget the watching eyes. You focus on the music, on the feeling of the silk kimono swooshing around your ankles, on the precise angle of your hand as you raise the fan. You move through the kata, the stylized postures you have drilled into your muscle memory. A turn of the head to suggest longing, a sweep of the sleeve to represent the wind, the fan fluttering down to mimic a falling leaf. It feels like an out-of-body experience. Part of your brain is analytically running through the choreography, terrified of making a mistake. Another part is acutely aware of the guests, of their silent, intense gaze. You can feel their judgment. Is your form correct? Is your expression right? Are you graceful enough? A strange and often unspoken element of these performances is the concept of audience participation. A successful performance wasn't just about perfect technique. It was about creating a connection with the guests. A truly appreciative guest might call out a word of praise, "Yo iwa brother," at a particularly well-executed moment. This was a high compliment. Conversely, a silent, unimpressed audience was a crushing verdict. Your performance wasn't just art, it was a service, and its success was measured by the satisfaction of the customer. The dance ends. You hold the final pose for a beat, your head bowed, your fan held just so. You then sink into a deep, formal bow. The room is silent for a heart-stopping moment. Then, one of the men begins to clap, a slow, deliberate applause. The others join in. One of them smiles and says to your one-san, "She has promise." A wave of relief so powerful it almost makes you dizzy washes over you. You did not fail. You survived. The question of what exactly the audience was appreciating as a point of academic discussion. Were they connoisseurs of the dance, appreciating the technical subtleties of your performance? Or were they appreciating the overall aesthetic package, the beautiful girl in the beautiful kimono, moving gracefully to the music? For most clients, it was likely the latter. They were not dance critics. They were consuming an experience, an atmosphere. Your performance was the centerpiece of a carefully constructed fantasy of refined, traditional Japanese beauty. Your technical skill was important, but only insofar as it contributed to the overall illusion of effortless perfection. The rest of the evening is a blur. You play some drinking games. Your earlier nervousness now replaced by a giddy, adrenal-unfueled confidence. You even manage a small, unprompted joke that makes one of the guests laugh. By the time you bow your way out of the room, you are exhausted, but buzzing with a new feeling, a sense of professional pride. Walking back to the okiya in the cool night air, the wooden clogs, the okobo, making their distinctive p, okp, 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 ok sound on the stone pavement. You feel different. You are no longer just a trainee. You are a performer. You have faced your audience and you have, in your own small way, succeeded. The Gilded Cage now has a purpose. It is your stage. You are now a full-fledged maiko, and your life settles into a rhythm, a relentless cycle of preparation and performance. The world you inhabit, the hanamaki, is a beautiful, intricate snow globe, sealed off from the outside world. But living inside a snow globe means your life is constantly on display. And the rules of this tiny world are absolute. You are living in a gilded cage, and you are beginning to understand the true nature of its bars. Your days are a paradox of grueling work and stunning beauty. You wake early, your body still aching from the takamagurka, and attend your lessons. Dance, shamisen, flute, tea ceremony, calligraphy. The training is perpetual. You are expected to constantly refine your skills. An artist never stops learning. These lessons are wedged into the morning hours, a frantic race against the clock. By early afternoon, the transformation begins, the long process of applying the white makeup, of being sculpted into the heavy kimono, of having your hair checked and draped. By late afternoon, you are no longer a person, but a product, ready for the evening. You look in the mirror and see the familiar stranger, the white face, the red-rimmed eyes, the bright silk. Then, you go to work. Guided by your one-e-san, you navigate the lantern-lit alleys of the hanamaki. Your tall obo sandals making you feel like you are walking on stilts. You spend your evenings in the tea houses, moving from one party to the next. You forsake. You make witty conversation. You laugh at jokes you don't find funny. You play games. You dance your dances. You are the life of a party that you are not truly a part of. You are a paid entertainer, a professional ambience creator. The rules are endless and often unspoken. You must never eat with the guests. Only pretend to sip from a cup. You must never show fatigue or boredom. Your smile must be constant, your grace unwavering. You learn to read the subtle social cues, to navigate the complex relationships between the patrons, to show the correct level of deference to everyone. One of the most restrictive rules is the curfew. As a maiko, you are expected to be back in the okiya by a certain time, often around winter. The life of a maiko is meant to be one of innocence and youthful charm, and late night carousing does not fit that image. The oka as an or senior maid will be waiting up for you, and being late is a serious offense. Your freedom is heavily curtailed. You cannot go to a modern movie theater or a cafe in your free time. Your appearance is too conspicuous, and it would break the carefully curated illusion. Your personal life is non-existent. Romantic relationships are strictly forbidden. You are an apprentice, and your focus must be solely on your art and your duty to the okiya. Your entire existence is dedicated to upholding the fantasy. A lesser known, but deeply significant, restriction was on handling money. The maiko almost never touched money. Her earnings from parties were paid directly from the tea house to the okiya's administrative office, the kenban. The kenban then credited the amount against her debt. The okiya provided her with everything she needed: food, lodging, clothes, lessons. She might receive a small allowance for personal items, but she lived in an essentially cashless world. This system was designed to keep her financially dependent and, frankly, financially illiterate. It made the prospect of ever leaving the system and surviving in the outside world even more daunting. Historians and sociologists often analyze the hanamaki as a total institution, a concept used to describe places like military barracks, prisons, or monasteries, where every aspect of an individual's life is controlled by the institution's authority. In the okiya, your sleep, your dress, your food, your social interactions, and your work were all dictated by a rigid set of rules. This created a powerful sense of group identity and loyalty, but it also stripped away individual autonomy. The debate continues on whether this was a protective system or an exploitative one. On one hand, the okiya protected its girls from the harsh realities of the outside world. It provided a safe, if restrictive, environment and a clear path for their lives. On the other hand, the system profited from their labor while keeping them in a state of perpetual debt and dependence. It was a golden cage, yes, but a cage nonetheless. The bars were made of silk, tradition, and financial obligation. You move through this world like a beautiful ghost. You are admired, desired, and photographed by tourists who see you as a relic of a bygone era. They see the perfect makeup, the stunning kimono, the graceful walk. They see the art. They don't see the girl underneath who is exhausted, whose scalp itches, whose feet are sore from the tall clogs, and who is beginning to wonder if this beautiful, glittering world is the only one she will ever know. You have moments of real joy, the thrill of a perfectly executed dance, a genuine laugh shared with your sisters back at the okiya, the pride in your one ease and approving smile. But these moments are islands in an ocean of duty and discipline. You are an object of fantasy for others, but your own dreams are small and carefully contained, like the tiny, painted bud on your lower lip. You have been a maiko for a few years now. The novelty and terror of your debut have faded into a familiar routine. The gilded cage is now simply your reality. On the surface, you are the picture of health and youthful vitality. Your art is flourishing. Your movements are fluid. Your conversation is witty, and your smile is effortlessly charming. But underneath the white paint and the heavy silk, a silent, insidious story is unfolding. The cumulative toll of your profession is beginning to manifest in ways that no one can see. The lead, your constant companion, continues its slow, patient work. The initial symptoms you once dismissed as fatigue have become more persistent. You often feel a dull, metallic taste in your mouth, the fogginess in your mind. The brain fog makes it harder to learn new songs or dance routines. You are more irritable than you used to be, a fact that you must constantly suppress beneath a mask of serene pleasantness. Sharp, cramping pains in your abdomen come and go, a secret agony you endure in silence. You would never complain. In this world, complaining is a sign of weakness, an unpardonable lack of discipline. Your skin, which is scrubbed raw every night to remove the thick layers of makeup, is starting to show the strain. It's often red and irritated. You notice fine lines around your eyes that seem too premature for your age. The lead is accelerating the aging process, a cruel irony for a profession that worships youth. You simply cover the damage with more of the poison that is causing it, a vicious cycle hidden from the world. Then there are the orthopedic issues. The years of kneeling in, say, IZA for hours on end have taken their toll on your knees and ankles. They ache constantly, a low, grinding pain. When you stand up after a long party, your joints creak in protest. You have learned to mask any sign of a limp, to move with a fluid grace that betrays nothing of the pain you feel. Your back and shoulders are in a constant state of tension. The weight of the heavy kimono, undobi eye, combined with the years of sleeping on the takama korka, have created deep, chronic knots in your muscles. You might get massages from a senior maid, but the relief is temporary. The physical stressors are a daily reality, and the damage is becoming permanent. One of the lesser-known ailments that plagued geisha was related to their constant, shallow breathing. Being tightly bound by the OBI for hours every day meant they could never take a full, deep breath. This can lead to a host of issues, including poor oxygenation, digestive problems, and a heightened state of anxiety in the nervous system. The calm, relaxed demeanor of a geisha was often a triumph of mental discipline over a body that was in a state of low-key, constant physical stress. You also notice changes in your hearing. Years of sitting next to the loud, percussive shamisen in small, enclosed rooms has had an effect. You sometimes have a faint ringing in your ears, a condition now known as tinnitus. It's another secret you keep. Another small piece of your body sacrificed to the art. The academic study of occupational health among historical performers is a growing field. Researchers look at the skeletons of Roman gladiators to understand their injuries, or analyze the remains of Victorian factory workers to see the effects of their labor. If they were to study the body of a geisha, they would find a unique constellation of ailments laid in the bones, arthritic knee joints, strain in the cervical spine, and hair follicle damage. Her body would be a roadmap of her profession, a testament to the physical price of her cruel beauty. The historical debate here centers on awareness. How much did they know? It's highly unlikely they understood the science of lead poisoning or traction alopecia, but they were not ignorant of the consequences. They knew that their skin aged poorly, that their joints ached, that they lost their hair. This was simply the cost of doing business. These ailments were so common that they were likely seen as a normal, unavoidable part of the geisha life cycle. There was a sense of shared suffering, a silent understanding among the women that this was their lot. You might share a quiet moment with your one Isan, away from the eyes of the Okazan. You might mention the pain in your back. She would simply nod, her eyes full of a weary understanding, and perhaps show you a specific stretch that helps. There is no solution, only coping mechanisms. There is no cure, only endurance. You lie on your takami korka at night, the cage of your profession temporarily dismantled. You are alone with your aching body. The white mask is gone, revealing your tired, irritated skin. The heavy silks are folded away, but the memory of their weight still seems to press on you. You feel the dull throb in your knees, the sharp pain in your neck, the strange cramps in your stomach. You are a beautiful, perfect instrument, but the instrument is beginning to fall out of tune, and the only thing you can do is get up in the morning and allow yourself to be ray-strung, ray-painted, and ray-played all over again. You have reached the pinnacle of your apprenticeship. You are now a senior maiko, in your late teens or early 20s. The vibrant, flashy kimonos of your junior years have been replaced with slightly more subdued colors. The dangling floral kanzashi have given way to simpler, more elegant hair ornaments. The flower bud on your lower lip is now painted as a full, graceful curve. You are no longer a bud. You are in full bloom. Endo. It is time for the most significant transition of your career. It is time for your erekei. Erekei literally means turning of the collar. It is the ceremony that marks your graduation from a maiko to a full-fledged geisha, or geiko, as they are called in Kyoto. The name of this ceremony comes from its most symbolic visual change. You will trade the red, embroidered collar of a maiko for the pure white color of a geiko. It is a simple change of fabric, but it represents a profound shift in your status, your art, and your life. The preparations for the erekei are just as significant as those for your Mise-dashi debut, but the feeling is different. Your debut was about youthful promise. The erekei is about mature artistry. For several days leading up to the ceremony, you will engage in a series of highly symbolic rituals. One of the most important is wearing a special hairstyle called desako. This is the last time you will wear an elaborate style made from your own hair. It is incredibly complex, with a tail of hair cut at the back, a tradition said to be a remnant of ancient marriage rituals. On the day of the erekei itself, you will once again visit the tea houses and important figures of the Hanamaki, but this time, you are not being introduced. You are announcing your transformation. You are thanking the community for their support during your apprenticeship. The most dramatic change, aside from the collar, is your entire aesthetic. As a geiko, your look becomes one of subdued, mature elegance. Your kimono will have shorter sleeves and will be in more solid, sophisticated colors. Your obi will no longer be the long, dangling dera ore style, but the neat, compact drum knot, and most significantly, for everyday appearances, you will no longer wear the thick white oshiro eye. This is a shock to your system. For years, your public face has been the white mask. Now, you will greet the world with your own skin. You will wear more conventional, subtle makeup, The iconic white face is now reserved only for very formal occasions or special dance performances. You are finally allowed to look like yourself again. But after years of hiding behind the mask, revealing your own face feels strangely vulnerable. The transition to geiko also brings a change in your professional life. You are now considered a master of your arts. Your fees will be higher. You will have more autonomy in choosing which parties to attend. You may even begin to mentor a new maiko, becoming an older sister yourself. Continuing the cycle of tradition, one of the most interesting and little discussed aspects of the Erika-e is the symbolic cutting of the ties to your childhood. The cutting of the hair in the S-ako hairstyle is a powerful symbol of this. You are no longer considered a girl. You are a woman, a professional artist responsible for your own career and, eventually, for paying off your own debt. The Erika-e ceremony highlights a fundamental tension that historians and sociologists love to debate: the geisha's relationship with age. In a profession that so clearly fetishized the youth and innocence of the maiko, what did it mean to graduate into an older, more mature role? On one hand, becoming a geiko brought immense prestige, respect, and a degree of artistic and personal freedom that a maiko could only dream of. Your value was now based on your skill and wisdom, not just your youthful charm. On the other hand, you were leaving behind the very image that was often most popular with clients. The transition required a profound shift in how you presented yourself and how you were perceived. A successful geiko commanded respect through her artistry and intellect, a different kind of power than the ingratiating charm of a maiko. You go through the rituals of the Erika-e in a state of quiet contemplation. You say goodbye to the red collar that has been your identity for so many years. You say goodbye to the heavy, dangling obi and the flashy kanzashi. You say goodbye to sleeping on the takamakurka, as you will now switch to wearing a wig for performances, a blessed relief for your scalp and your aching neck. The final ritual is a quiet one. The hairdresser carefully cuts the small tail of your S-ako hairstyle. The snip of the scissors is a soft, final sound. It is the sound of your apprenticeship ending. The next day, you dress for the evening. You put on a simple, elegant kimono of deep indigo. A dresser helps you with the neat drum knot of your obi. You apply your own makeup, a white foundation, a touch of eyeliner, a simple, elegant red lip. You look in the mirror and see a woman you barely recognize. It is you, your own face, your own skin, but older, more composed. The girl is gone. Hideko looks back at you. You walk out of the okiya, your simple gade sandals making a quiet, confident sound on the pavement. The cage of your apprenticeship is behind you. A new, more subtle, and far more complex cage of professional artistry awaits. You have turned your collar. You are a geiko. The world expects you to project an aura of serene, mature elegance. The most visible sign of this transformation is your face. The iconic white mask of the maiko is gone, reserved now only for the most formal dance recitals. For your nightly work at the azeshiki, you wear your own face, adorned with subtle, sophisticated makeup. It should be a relief. It is, in many ways, a terrifying new form of exposure. After years of hiding behind the thick, uniform layer of oshiro-ai, your own skin feels foreign and inadequate. You are acutely aware of every flaw, every imperfection that the white paint so effectively concealed. You see the faint, premature lines around your eyes, a gift from the years of lead-based makeup and forced smiles. You see the slight unevenance of your skin tone, the lingering redness and irritation from years of harsh scrubbing. This is the face that the lead has left you with, and now you must present it to the world as a canvas of mature beauty. The irony is thick enough to taste. As a maiko, you were a symbol of youthful perfection, a flawless porcelain doll. But this perfection was an illusion, created by a toxic mask that was actively destroying the very youth it was meant to represent. Now, as a geiko, you are meant to embody a more natural and authentic beauty, but you must do so with a face that already bears the scars of your apprenticeship. Your natural is now a landscape shaped by poison. This creates a new kind of daily anxiety. Your makeup routine is now a delicate act of camouflage. You use modern foundations and concealers to even out your skin tone. To hide the damage, you become an expert in the subtle art of contouring, of using shadow and light to create an illusion of health and vitality. The goal is to look effortlessly beautiful, but the effort involved is immense. The performance of naturalins is, in many ways, more demanding than the performance of being a painted doll. A little known detail about this transition is the psychological impact. Many geisha, in their memoirs, speak of feeling naked or unprotected without their white makeup. The Oshiro eye was a shield, a barrier between their true selves and the critical eyes of their clients. It was a uniform that clearly defined their role. Without it, the lines felt blurrier. They felt more like themselves, but themselves was not who they were being paid to be. They were being paid to be a geiko, an artist, a fantasy. Showing their own face felt like a betrayal of the artifice, even though it was what tradition demanded. The academic conversation around this topic touches on ideas of identity and performance. Scholars like Irving Goffman wrote about the presentation of self in everyday life, the idea that we are all actors playing roles. For the geisha, this was not a metaphor, it was a literal, daily reality. The switch from the white mask to the natural face is a fascinating case study. Is the geiko's natural face her true self? Or is it simply another, more subtle mask? The consensus among many cultural theorists is that it is the latter. The geiko's face, with its carefully applied no makeup, is just as much a performance of a role, the role of the sophisticated, mature artist, as the maiko's painted face was of hers. You look at the older geiko in your okia, women in their 40s, 50s, or even older. They move with an unshakable poise. Their faces, though lamed with age, are composed and elegant. They have made peace with this transition. They have learned to wear their own faces with the same confidence they once wore the white mask. They are your new role models. You learn to appreciate the new aesthetic. There is a quiet power in the subtlety of the geiko's look. It is a beauty that does not scream for attention, but rather invites a closer look. It speaks of wisdom, experience, and a deep, inner confidence. It is a beauty that is earned, not just painted on, but the ghost of the lead remains. The chronic, low-grade ailments continue to be your silent companions. The ache in your joints, the fatigue that settles deep in your bones. You may no longer be applying the poison daily, but the damage is done. The lead has settled into your body, a permanent souvenir from your time as a beautiful porcelain doll. Your new, natural pallor is not just from a lack of sun. It is a deeper, more lasting tombai, tinjibi a peeliness that comes from within. You are a living testament to the fact that the most beautiful flowers can sometimes have the most poisonous roots. You are a geiko now, a respected artist. The frantic energy of the maiko years has been replaced by a deep, steady current of professionalism. You have traded youthful flash for mature elegance. This transition is reflected in every aspect of your appearance, most notably in the kimonos you now wear. The vibrant, multicolored silks with their long, flowing sleeves are a thing of the past. Your wardrobe now consists of kimonos in more subdued, solid colors, or with small, repeating patterns. Teoemon. The tones are deep and sophisticated. Indigo, charcoal gray, dusty mauve, forest green. The fabric itself may be of even higher quality, a richer, heavier silk, but its statement is one of quiet confidence, not youthful exuberance. The sleeves are shorter now, a practical change that signifies your status. You no longer need the long, girlish sleeves of the maiko. Your movements are more economical. Your grace derived from precision, not from the dramatic sweep of a sleeve. You are a working woman, and your attire reflects this. But do not mistake subdued for comfortable. The weight of the silk is still immense, and the primary instrument of constriction, the obi, is still very much a part of your daily life. You have traded the spectacular, dangling dara obi for the more compact and formal teiko, musubi. The drum knot, it's a neat, boxy knot, said to resemble a traditional drum. It is considered more dignified and appropriate for a mature woman. The process of putting it on, however, is no less demanding. The wide band of brocade is still wrapped tightly around your torso, perhaps even more so now to create the smooth, unbroken line expected under the more form-fitting kimonos of a geiko. That familiar feeling of pressure on your ribs, the inability to take a deep, satisfying breath, remains your constant companion. The feeling of being encased, of your body being sculpted and held rigid by your clothing, has not changed at all. You are more accustomed to it now. Of course, the shallow breathing has become second nature. The perfect, ramrod straight posture is your default state. You have learned to live within the beautiful prison of your clothes. But the physical cost, which began in your teens, continues to accrue. This brings us to a rarely discussed aspect of the kimono's lifelong impact, the cumulative strain on the body. Years and years of being tightly bound for hours every day can have long-term effects on the internal organs and the musculoelastic system. The constant pressure on the abdomen can affect digestion and circulation. The rigid posture, while elegant, can lead to a loss of flexibility in the spine and chronic tension in the back and shoulder muscles. A particularly strange and specific detail is how the kimono affects the way women walk, even when they are not wearing it. After decades of taking the tiny, sliding suri as high steps, the gait becomes ingrained. Many older, retired geisha retain this distinctive, shuffling walk for the rest of their lives. Their bodies had been so thoroughly rate-reined that they could not easily revert to a more normal way of moving. The silk's memory was imprinted on their very muscles. The academic debate around the kimono is rich and fascinating. Is it a symbol of timeless Japanese tradition and aesthetic genius? Or is it an instrument of patriarchal control? A garment designed to restrict and objectify women? The truth, as argued by many contemporary fashion historians and cultural critics, is that it is both, and its meaning has shifted over time. In the world of the geisha, the kimono was their uniform, a key part of their artistic toolkit, and a symbol of their professional identity. It was a source of pride, but it was also, undeniably, a source of physical hardship. It was a garment that both empowered and constrained them in equal measure. As a geiko, you have more say in the kimonos you wear. You might begin to build your own collection, slowly paying off your debt to the okiya and investing your earnings in your own exquisite garments. Owning your own kimonos is a major sign of success and independence. It means you are no longer just wearing the house's assets. You are your own woman, your own brand. You stand in front of the mirror, adjusting the pure white color of your nagaje and you smooth down the front of your deep gray kimono. You feel the familiar, tight embrace of the obi around your middle. The silk is heavy on your shoulders. It is the weight of your profession, the weight of your art, the weight of tradition. As a maiko, this weight felt like a burden, a heavy costume you were forced to wear. Now, as a geiko, it feels different. It feels like armor. It is the armor that protects the artist within. The armor you have earned the right to wear through years of pain and perseverance. The suffocation has not ended, but you have, at last, learned to breathe within it. As a geiko, you have achieved artistic mastery and a degree of autonomy. Your debt to the okiya, that heavy, invisible ledger that has shadowed you since childhood, is finally shrinking. You are a respected professional, but there is one final, crucial piece of the puzzle to secure your future, to ensure your stability in a world where youth and beauty are fleeting commodities. You need to find a dana. The dana is a concept that is often misunderstood and sensationalized in the West. He is not a husband. He is not a casual boyfriend. The dana is a wealthy and powerful patron who agrees to take on a long-term role as a geisha sponsor. The relationship is complex, deeply traditional, and operates according to its own set of unwritten rules. Essentially, a dana provides financial security. He would pay a regular stipend to the geisha, which would cover many of her substantial professional expenses. The cost of new kimonos, hair ornaments, lessons, and performance fees. He might even pay off the remainder of her debt to the okiya. effectively granting her financial independence. In return, the geisha would prioritize him. He would at first call on her time for parties and private engagements. She would be his exclusive companion in the world of the shiki. The nature of the relationship could vary enormously. It was, at its core, a business arrangement, a patronage of the arts where the art was the geisha herself. However, it often evolved into a deep, long-lasting emotional bond. The Dana was not just a client, he was a confidant, a mentor, and a steadfast companion. The relationship was often one of genuine affection and mutual respect, akin to a formal, non-cohabitation partnership. The question of physical intimacy is the most complex and debated aspect of the Dana system, while the geisha's art is one of entertainment and companionship, not sex. An intimate relationship could, and often did, develop between a geisha and her Dana. However, this was not a requirement or an explicit part of the contract. It was a private matter between two consenting adults, a possible dimension of a much broader and more intricate relationship. It was certainly not the transactional, one-night stand that is oft unsallaciously portrayed. The Dana relationship was about longevity, loyalty, and a deep, shared social life. For a geisha, securing a good Dana was the ultimate career goal. It was her retirement plan. It provided stability in a precarious profession. A geisha with a reliable Dana was at the top of the social and professional hierarchy. She had security, prestige, and the freedom to focus on her art without the constant, grinding pressure of having to earn enough to cover her expenses and pay down her debt. A strange and little-known detail of this system is that a Dana did not have to be a single man. He was often a married man of high social standing. His relationship with his geisha was not seen as a threat to his marriage. It existed in a separate social sphere. His wife would run his home and his family, and his geisha would be his companion in the world of business and pleasure. It was a compartmentalities of life that is difficult to understand from a modern, Western perspective, but it was a widely accepted social convention of the time. The academic debate around the Dana system is, as you can imagine, intense. Is it a form of sophisticated, long-term prostitution, as some critics argue, or is it a legitimate system of artistic patronage that gave women a rare opportunity for financial independence and social influence in a patriarchal society? Many feminist historians argue for the latter. They point out that a successful geisha with a Dana was one of the most economically empowered women of her time. She was, in essence, her own small business, with her patron as her primary investor. This gave her a degree of autonomy that was unthinkable for most other women, who were expected to marry and become housewives. Finding a Dana was not a passive process. A geisha had to be strategic. She had to cultivate relationships with powerful and reliable clients, demonstrating not just her artistic skill, but also her intelligence, loyalty, and discretion. The choice was mutual. A powerful man would not choose just any geisha to be his official companion. He would choose one whose grace and intelligence reflected well on him. It was a partnership that had to benefit both parties. You, as a young geiko, are now navigating these complex waters. You observe the relationships between the senior geisha and their patrons. You learn to distinguish between the casual, fun-loving client and the serious, potential Dana. You engage in conversation with a new level of depth, showing your knowledge of art, literature, and current events. You are auditioning, not just for an evening's entertainment, but for a lifetime of security. It is the final, and perhaps highest, art you must master, the art of securing your own future in a world designed to keep you beautiful, artistic, and perpetually dependent. It is the last bar of the gilded cage, and finding a Dana is the only way to transform it from a bar into a safety net. The years pass like the quiet turning of seasons in a Japanese garden. You are no longer the young geiko, fresh from her eriki. You are a seasoned veteran, a respected figure in the hanamaki. Perhaps you found a kind and reliable Dana who secured your future. Perhaps you achieved financial independence through your own hard work and talent, becoming one of the rare geisha who could support herself entirely on her own terms. Or perhaps you simply grew older, your popularity waning as younger. Brighter stars rose to take your place. You stand in front of the mirror in your small, private room in the Okia, a room you may now have all to yourself. You are preparing not for a party, but for a quiet evening. You look at your reflection, not with the critical eye of a performer, but with the quiet contemplation of a historian examining her own life. The face that looks back at you is a map of your journey. The skin, though cared for, has a certain thinness, a legacy of the lead-based paint you wore for so many years. The lines around your eyes and mouth, they're etched deeper now, not just from age, but from a lifetime of professional smiling. You see the faint ghost of the geisha's bald spot at the crown of your head, the secret you have learned to hide with clever hairstyling. Your hands, though still graceful, have the thickened, callous fingertips of a lifelong shamsun player. Your knees ache on rainy days, a souvenir from 1,000 nights spent kneeling. Your body is an archive of the cruel beauty you mastered. Each shake, each scar, each imperfection is a testament to a sacrifice made on the altar of your art. You were a living sculpture, and the process of being sculpted left its marks, both visible and invisible. You think back to the girl you were, the one from the rice paddy with mud between her toes. She seems like a character from a story you read a long time ago. Do you miss her? It's a question you can't even answer. Her world was one of simple survival. Your world was one of complex artistry and profound discipline. You traded one form of hardship for another, more beautiful one. Was it a fair trade? The central question of your life echoes in the quiet room. Were you a perfect artist, or a perfected object, a master of a demanding and beautiful tradition, or a victim of its cruel requirements? The truth, you realize, is not one or the other. It is a superposition of both, a paradox you have lived every day of your life. You were an artist. You mastered the dance, the song, the art of conversation. You brought beauty and a fleeting sense of joy to countless people. You were a keeper of tradition, a living link in a chain of women stretching back for centuries. You had a power and a prestige that few women of your time could ever hope to achieve. You were a creator of beauty, and you were an object. Your body was not your own. It was shaped, painted, bound, and starved into an idealized form. Your health was sacrificed for your appearance. Your freedom was curtailed for the sake of the illusion. You were a product, bought and sold, your value calculated on a ledger. You were a creation of beauty. Historians will forever abate your legacy. They will argue about agency and exploitation, about art and artifice. They will write papers on the symbolism of your white collar, on the economics of the Dana system, on the chemical composition of your makeup. They will try to categorize you, to fit your life into a neat academic box, but they will never fully understand the feeling of the takamo korka against your neck, or the specific sting of the shamsun string on a raw fingertip, or the quiet, suffocating embrace of the soul kobai. You pick up a simple wooden comb and slowly, gently, run it through your thinning hair. The sound is soft, a whisper in the silent room. You look out the window at the moon hanging over the curved tile roofs of the Hanamaki. The floating world looks peaceful from here. A perfect, unchanging dream. But you know the truth. You know the effort, the pain, the poison that it takes to keep the dream alive. Your life has been a performance. And now, in the quiet twilight, the audience is gone. The music has faded. And the artist is alone with her instrument. The beautiful, aching, resilient instrument that is her own body. The gilded cage has finally dissolved, leaving only the woman who survived it. Her memory is a collection of silk, and sorrow, and song. The moon outside your window is a soft, milky white, very much like the oshiro you once wore. But this white is gentle, calming. It spills across the tatami mat, turning the room a tranquil silver gray. The sounds of the Hanamaki have faded now to a distant, sleepy murmur. The last clack of wooden sandals has echoed away down the stone-paved alley. All that is left is the soft hum of the city, a sound like a deep, slow breath. You feel the weight of the day, of all the days, finally begin to lift from your shoulders. The aches in your joints seem to dissolve into the cool night air. The memories, once so sharp and vivid, now feel soft around the edges, like watercolors bleeding into paper. The cage of your past is no longer a cage at all. It's just a story, and the story is gently rocking you to sleep. Your own breathing becomes deep and even, a quiet rhythm in the stillness. You are drifting now, floating out of calm, dark river, carried toward a peaceful, dreamless sleep. The performance is over. It is time to rest.